Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Fairy Tale. Start to capture the Fairy Queen Erza. Chapter 1. In the deserted woods, a baby who seemed to be about a few months old slowly opened his eyes. It stands to reason that a child of this age, if he appears alone in the woods, must be panicked, afraid that he will cry in the next second he came out, but the child in front of him didn't look confused at all. He seemed to know exactly where he was and what he was going to do. Is this the world of One Piece? The child murmured to himself. His name is Yi-Wen, he is a time traveler. He was playing a Krypton Gold minigame authorized by One Piece when he was alive, and on the third day of playing, Yi-Wen suddenly heard a message from the sky to him. He came to call and told him that he had obtained an extremely cherished time travel opportunity. Not only that, he could also bring the 5 devil fruits in his game backpack and the special physique obtained by Krypton Gold to time travel together. When Yi-Wen heard the call, she originally refused, until the voice of heaven told him that if he didn't travel through, he would go to hell. After thinking about it, Yi-Wen was forced to agree. Yi-Wen thought, relying on the special physique that he obtained with the first charge of 6 yuan, which allowed him to eat multiple devil fruits, and the 5 devil fruits in his backpack, he would definitely be able to thrive in the world of One Piece. At least he thought so a second ago, until it was only when Yi-Wen saw a crimson, scaled and imposing dragon lying behind him, that she realized that she had been deceived, and this was not the world of One Piece at all. Are you abandoned too? The crimson dragon looked up and down, and Yi-Wen, who had short brown red hair, spoke out. Dragon. It's a dragon, right? It's definitely a dragon, right? Can you still spit out people's words? One Piece has dragons, but no talking dragons. Isn't this the world of One Piece at all? Yi-Wen looked at the crimson dragon in front of him. His body was shaking constantly. He realized that he seemed to be cheated, and he wanted to do something, but in the end, it all turned into a baby's shaking indiscriminately. What do you want to do, little guy? But it doesn't matter what you want to do. You are abandoned. If no one raises you, you will die soon. The crimson dragon looked at the baby in front of him and said extremely cruel words. Devil fruit. I must eat the devil fruit. However, Yi-Wen didn't have time to listen to what the crimson dragon in front of him was saying at this moment. His mind was filled with the desire to survive and told himself that he had to eat the devil fruit in order to save his life under the dragon in front of him. Thinking so, Yi-Wen clicked on her own system. Character. Yuan. Physique. Special constitution, can eat multiple devil fruits. Domineering. Unlocked. Devil fruit. Unlocked. Backpack. Zoology human fruit ordinary human form, animal department Yu fruit Qinglong form, Superman department heavy fruit, nature department shining fruit, Superman department magnetic fruit. Just as Yi-Wen was about to summon his devil fruit, he suddenly hesitated, because he remembered an important question. Now he seems to have no teeth, and with his current fighting power, it seems that he can't bite through the outer skin of the devil fruit. For a moment, Yi-Wen wanted to cry, but the self-help spirit of the Traverser kept him from giving up. Since he couldn't eat the devil fruit, then let the dragon in front of you eat the devil fruit. As we all know, in addition to the existence of special constitutions, both animals and humans can only eat one devil fruit. Once the second devil fruit is eaten, bad things will happen immediately. Egwene wasn't sure how many devil fruits the dragon in front of him could eat, but right now it was his only way to save himself. Yi-Wen has a special physique and can eat devil fruits indefinitely. This is also Yi-Wen's biggest cheat, which makes him think that he can definitely become the strongest in the world of One Piece. Originally, the 5 devil fruits in his backpack, in addition to his unlucky luck, pulled out the human fruit ordinary person form, that is, the ordinary people's form of the human fruit as the saying goes. He was prepared to eat it himself, but in order to survive, he had to give up something. For this reason, he planned to give up his fruit of everyone and fruit of magnetism. With a plan in mind, Yi-Wen immediately summoned the devil fruit in her backpack, and suddenly a strange-looking fruit appeared in Yi-Wen's hands out of thin air. Yi-Wen, who was as big as a baby, was holding a fruit that was the size of a child's head. Originally, Egwene planned to summon 2 devil fruits at once, but it seemed that he could only take out 1 devil fruit at a time, and he could only summon the other devil fruits after 1 devil fruit was eaten. Yi-Wen didn't know whether it was because of his relatively weak mental power, or it was a system problem, but right now he had nothing to do. But Yi-Wen was very calm. He decided to wait until the dragon ate the human fruit, and him, into his mouth, and immediately summoned the second devil fruit the moment the first devil fruit was eaten by the dragon. He wants to gamble, bet that his speed is fast enough, bet that the dragon will be killed by 2 devil fruits. Once the dragon will be killed by the power of the 2 devil fruits, Yuan will immediately summon the form of animal, fish fruit, phantom beast, and green dragon, and use the teeth in the dragon's mouth to cut off a little bit of devil fruit, taking advantage of the property that it will not reside in corpses except for a few extremely special devil fruits. Yuan only needs to peel off the peel of the devil fruit and eat a little bit of pulp, and then she can immediately obtain the huge vitality of the fish fruit, phantom beast species, and green dragon form, and thus gain the capital to survive in this world. Thinking of this, Yuan held the animal system that she had summoned in her hand, the human fruit common people form, blinked her big pure eyes, and handed it to the giant dragon. After finishing everything and being cured, Yuan waited patiently, waiting for the giant dragon to open its bloody mouth and eat him and the fruit in his hand in one gulp. Space magic. Is that the fruit for me? The crimson dragon looked at Yuan summoning the devil fruit with calm eyes. She stretched her slender neck forward and smelled the devil fruit that Yuan held with all her strength in her chubby little hands. Then she stuck out her tongue, picked it lightly, and ate the fruit in Yuan's hand in one bite. Didn't eat me. Yuan watched, just ate the devil fruit in his hand, and did not hurt the dragon for a moment. He originally thought that the red dragon in front of him would kill him in one bite. After all, in the games he played before, red dragons were evil dragons that symbolized destruction and destruction. And it is the strongest and most vicious dragon among the evil dragons. Similar to D&D. So as soon as Yuan came up, she regarded the giant dragon in front of her as an evil existence. It's so hard to eat. This is really the worst fruit I've ever eaten in my life, I feel like I'm going to spit it out. The crimson dragon tried to spit out the strange fruit she had eaten, but she failed. The strange thing about the devil fruit is that once it is swallowed, it will definitely not be able to spit it out, and the moment it is eaten, it will automatically gain the power of the devil fruit. At the moment when the crimson dragon's complexion was contorted and his stomach and intestines were twitching continuously, a strange power spread from the dragon's whole body. A change that the giant dragon never thought of as happening to the giant dragon. I saw the giant dragon's huge body gradually shrinking, the wings behind the dragon slowly disappeared, the majestic forehead gradually became smoother, and the crimson scales as beautiful as the setting sun became transparent, looming. After a while, the giant dragon that exuded a huge sense of oppression had disappeared without a trace. In its place was a woman with long crimson hair and a graceful face. The woman's eyebrows and eyes are somewhat heroic, her figure is plump and proud, and she is white and delicate. Although there is an obvious scar on her navel and lower abdomen, she is not ugly. Not only does it not break the overall beauty of a woman, but it adds a different kind of beauty. Just like that, the ferocious dragon disappeared, replaced by a stunning beauty. Quote. The beauty's body trembled slightly, she felt the changes in her body, her eyes were full of disbelief, she hurriedly looked up and down her body, she looked at her hands, her feet, her human body, for an instant, tears flowed silently from her eyes. Are you God-given, my child? After a while, the woman walked up to Yuan, and she gently hugged Yuan. Her delicate face was filled with a deep love called maternal love. At this moment, the woman has already regarded Yuan as a child bestowed on her by God. It seems that I don't need to die. Yuan looked at the woman and breathed a sigh of relief. But this really isn't the world of One Piece. Yuan wanted to cry but had no tears, when the dragon in front of her ate the devil fruit and turned into a human. Yuan is 100% sure that this is not the world of One Piece. Originally, Yuan was wondering if her luck was too outrageous, and she encountered a phantom beast devil fruit ability user that did not appear in the original book, but this idea was rejected after the dragon ate the human fruit. If the giant dragon is really a devil fruit capable user, she won't be so stupid as to continue to eat the second devil fruit. So where is this place? Egwene thought so. Ishgar Continent, a small town in a remote country. In a bakery called Scarlet Goddess, a child with short brown hair who looked about 1 year old was sitting at the front desk staring at the shop. At the age when other children were still in their infancy, this 1-year-old seemed to have the ability to stare at the bakery alone. Even in this magical world full of magic, the child's behavior can be regarded as a genius among mortals. In the ordinary bakery, the customers who were choosing bread seemed to be familiar with the scene in front of them. Yiwen, is your mother going to buy again? In the store, the warm-hearted neighbor uncle asked Yiwen. Yes, Uncle John. The child with short brown-red hair was the time traveler Yiwen, and he was smiling at the moment, greeting the person who asked him a question. The speaker is called John, a blacksmith in the town, and John's blacksmith shop is next to their bakery, so John often comes to take care of the business of Yiwen's family. Yiwen, didn't I tell you? If you have something to do, just go to the next door and find me. If I help you mother and child, Irene and you won't have to work so hard. John, a tall and rough man with several scars on his face, said to Egwene. John, you've been pestering Irene for a year. Since she moved to this small town, you've been pestering her. It's so boring, and in my opinion, Irene is not interested in you. That's right. Irene is the most beautiful woman in the whole town. I heard that there was a magister who pursued Irene before. I advise you should give up as soon as possible. Just as John finished speaking, other guests in the bakery opened their mouths and made fun of John. Go, what do you know? John blushed. Although he looked fierce, he was surprisingly innocent. He couldn't hold back his face after being talked about by so many people. After glaring at the group of sarcastic people, he turned to look at Yiwen and said, Yiwen, I put the money here, I'll go back to the next door first, remember to find me if you need anything. Don't worry, Uncle John. Egwene smiled and gave John a slight nod. This was his practiced professional smile, and it was the same for all the guests. Ha ha, John ran away. Then, John was inside the bakery. Under the gaze of several pairs of eyes, he quickly walked out the door and returned to the blacksmith shop next door. Ah, Yiwen sighed helplessly looking at the laughing crowd. Yiwen has lived in this world for more than a year, and he is now more than 1 year old. For more than a year, Yiwen has been living with the scarlet dragon who ate his devil fruit. They left the forest and came to a town where humans lived, and opened a shop selling desserts, bread, and cakes. The bakery. At the same time, in this year's time, Yiwen finally understood clearly which world he had crossed into. Yes, he did not travel to the world of One Piece, but to the world of fairy tale. For Yiwen, this is not good news, because in Yiwen's opinion, the world of fairy tale is more dangerous than the world of One Piece. Yiwen clearly knew how perverted the villains were in this world called fairy tale. Another time travel, another world destruction, troublesome things, one after another. If Yiwen travels to the world of One Piece, she will go to Windmill Village to make a fool of herself, and it has almost nothing to do with what the pirate navy looks like outside. But the problem with the world of fairy tale is that the battle between the big villain boss and the protagonist group almost swept across the entire continent, and he didn't even know where to hide, and there was also a full-scale battle of hunting and killing dragons everywhere. Force ceiling. This made Egwene feel a headache. Fortunately, Yiwen got off to a good start, because he finally figured out the identity of the Scarlet Dragon. The beautiful person who met Yiwen, ate Yiwen's animal-type devil fruit human fruit common people form, and then regained the human form as the founder of Dragon Slayer magic, the mother of Dragon Slayer magic, the beautiful and powerful Queen of Dragons, Irene Bersarion. In the original book, Irene's life is a tragedy. She is obviously the queen of Ishgar continent who protects human beings from giant dragons, and is the creator of the great dragon-slaying magic, but because of the excessive use of dragon-slaying magic, it caused the side effects of dragon-slaying magic, causing her body to turn into a dragon. Then she was abandoned by the stupid scumbag, Hurt. While pregnant, she was betrayed by humans and sentenced to death. In the end, in despair, he turned into a giant dragon that shook the sky, destroyed the place of execution, and left. For the next 400 years, Irene was unable to transform into an adult because of the too powerful magic power in her body and the need to separate her spirit to take care of the children in her body, and could only live in this world in the form of a dragon. Until Irene met one of the world's strongest magisters by chance, one of the protagonists throughout the entire timeline of the original book, and one of the final villains, the Black Mage Jeff. With the help of Jeff, Irene finally obtained a false human posture, which gave Irene a short-lived happiness. But this human gesture is false after all. Irene's essence has been eroded by the dragon-slaying magic, and she has become a giant dragon. After a short period of happiness, there will be even greater pain. Irene is a side effect of being turned into a dragon, unable to sleep, unable to taste food. And an overly clear brain. Let her still remember the painful memories hundreds of years ago. Irene was tortured by the side effects of being transformed into a dragon and the painful memory of being abandoned and ravaged by the scumbag, and her spirit almost collapsed. She even had the idea of taking away the body of the child in her womb, and then becoming a human again. But in the end, Irene's motherhood defeated her animal nature. In desperation and pain, in order to prevent her from collapsing and taking away her young daughter, she sadly abandoned the newly born Erza and joined Zareth's camp. Among them, Irene Belsarion, who became one of the two strongest subordinates of Jareth, is known as the Crimson Despair of the Empire of the West. But the tragedy did not let Irene go. Then the tragedy continued. In order to gain the power to sanction the Black Dragon Akunologia, the brain-twitched Zirf chose to attack the continent of Ishgar and formally joined the protagonist group, the Magisters of Fairy Tale. Start the decisive battle. As one of Jeth's strongest subordinates, Irene is naturally the enemy of her daughter, Erza, who is also one of the protagonists in Fairy Tale. The confrontation between the two camps makes the relationship between mother and daughter a bitter duel ensued. Although Irene is extremely powerful, she was unable to attack her own daughter in the end, and was defeated by Erza's sword. Then the most cruel thing happened in the whole play. After the founder of dragon magic, Akunologia, who wanted to destroy all giant dragons, and the dragon slayer Magister, was equally insane, and cruelly destroyed Irene's body completely. At this point, Irene ended her tragic life, but Yuen heard that in the episode after, Fairy Tale, Irene didn't die completely, but he didn't know much about it. Because Egwene would never watch Irene go back to that disastrous fate. Within a year, Yuen had already developed feelings for Irene. Now that he, Yuen, came to this world, at least he must protect the important people around him, and live in peace until the end of the world. This is Yuen's goal in this world. Thinking of this, Yuen opened her character template in her heart. Character: Yuen. Physique: special constitution, can eat multiple devil fruits. Domineering. Knowledge color: LV6+. Armed color: LV6+. Overlord color: LV6+. Devil fruit. Animals: fish fruit, phantom beasts, blue dragon form, LV6+. Superman. Heavy fruits, LV6+. Natural department sparkling fruit, LV6+. Gymnastics. Swordsmanship, LV6+. 6 types, LV6+. Funding: 205,908. This character template is the capital that Yuen can gain a foothold in this world. Yuen can obtain funds by completing the daily tasks issued by the system every day, and funds are the most important thing that Yuen uses to upgrade. The full level of each ability of Yuen is 10 times. From the beginning of unlocking the ability, that is, upgrading the ability to LV1 requires a little money. The money required for each level is 10 times that of the previous level, which means level 2. 10 points of funds are required. Level 3 requires 100 funds, Level 4 requires 1,000 funds, Level 5 requires 10,000 funds, Level 6 requires 100,000 funds, and so on. Level 7 requires 1 million funds, Level 8 that is 10 million funds, Level 9 needs 100 million funds, and the full Level 10 requires an astonishing 1 billion funds. Yuen has spent more than 800,000 to 900,000 to improve her 8 abilities so far. And in the future, Yuen will need more and more funds, and this expansion of funds is entirely due to. This system is calculated according to the capital currency of One Piece World. The capital of One Piece World itself is very inflated. In the later stage, the rewards of all the big pirates are above 1 billion. At the same time, because the abilities of One Piece World all complement each other, domineering, fruit ability, and physical skills are indispensable, so Yuen can only choose balanced development. For example, Shining Fruit's speed is too fast, Yuen's brain can't keep up with this speed, and his line of sight is not far enough. He wants to determine the distance between 2 points to ensure that Yuen will not move quickly to the wrong place. In places where knowledge are needed to assist. The armed color and the overlord color are hard currencies, they complement each other, one can cause damage to the inside, and the other can turn into a black thunder to strike from the air. Yu fruit can give Yuan a powerful body, but it doesn't come with any skills. At this time, 6 moves and swordsmanship are needed to make up for Yuan's lack of skills. At the same time, the 6 moves and swordsmanship can also strengthen Yuan's physical fitness and make Yuan stronger. And the heavy fruit, that is, the gravity fruit, has a too large attack range. If you don't have knowledge, it may hurt innocent people. Moreover, if you want to use the gravity fruit's basic ability to play as fancy as Fujitora's smile, you also need to be strong, assisted by knowledge and knowledge. Yi Wen looked at her attributes, sighed, and clicked on the task template at the same time. Task 1. Help Irene watch the store and get 1,000 funds. Task 2. Sell a piece of bread and get 1,000 fund. Task 3. 10 customers enter the store during the shop visit and get 1,000 funds. Right now, these 3 daily tasks have changed from gray to blue light, which means that Yi Wen has completed all the daily tasks for today. Yi Wen saw that she had received all of her 3,000 daily funds, and his original funds changed from 205,908 to 208,908. Just when Yi Wen was wondering when she would be able to collect enough funds to upgrade one of her abilities to level 7, a scarlet figure hurried back to the bakery with the sound of wind and bells. Immediately afterwards, Yi Wen felt a huge force hug her up. Yi Wen, when mother left, you weren't hurt, were you? Did any bad people come to make trouble? The crimson shadow hugged Yi Wen to her chest, and kept asking worriedly. Yi Wen didn't need to think about it, he felt the force that almost suffocated him, and he knew who was back. You must know that with his current data, in the world of pirates, it is at the level of a vice admiral. Although the strength of the vice admirals is uneven, because there are lieutenant admirals of the giant race, they can be called the level of lieutenant admirals from level 5. But because there is a legendary old man who does not like to be promoted, even if Yi Wen filling up the ability, adding it to level 10 can actually be said to be the level of a lieutenant general. But no matter how you say it, this so-called lieutenant general level can be regarded as a master in the world of pirate and fairy tale, but even so, when Yi Wen faced this force that suddenly hugged him tightly, still powerless to resist. Just because the opponent can destroy an entire country in an instant, and it is the kind of country that can be called a big country with no water in its area. Called Scarlet Despair by countless people. Seeing that beautiful scarlet figure, Irene Bersarian, who can do nothing but despair. That has already surpassed the range of human beings. It is an ancient weapon, or even the combat power of an ancient weapon. Even counting all the magisters of the Alvarez Empire created by Ishgar continent and western continent Jareth. Excluding the black dragon Akunologia, who is scurrying around the world with the ceiling of combat power, and the insane black mage Zirf who has an immortal body. Only the magic king Olgast, who is called the Double Wall together with Irene Bersarian, has the power to fight against Irene. Speaking of Olgast, Yi Wen felt a little ashamed. When the magic king Olgast was still in the stomach of Mebus, the first president of Fairy Tail, the magic power in his body was enough to make the so-called genius, Fairy Tail the second-generation president, Precto, was shocked and panicked. Compared to what Olgast said, even Yuan, who has a cheat, can't be called a genius. It's okay, Irene, no one will attack our bakery at all, even if there is, I can easily defeat them. Egwene felt that he was about to suffocate, he gently pushed Irene away, and preached. Yi Wen didn't call Irene his mother, and since he could speak, he has been calling Irene by his first name, and Irene didn't say anything about it. Yi Wen, don't be careless. People in this world are unpredictable, and some people who are not our opponents will use some despicable means, so you must protect yourself. Irene rubbed Yi Wen's small face and spoke softly. Irene looked at Yi Wen dotingly, and at the same time shared some of her experiences in human society, with ulterior motives. Egwene knew that Irene was doing it for his own good, so he nodded, as if he was listening carefully. It's good to know. As Irene said, she snapped her fingers lightly, and all kinds of fruits and flour appeared in the room. These are the materials used by the bakery to make bread, and they are all grown by Irene herself. As much bread is made every day, I will go to the mountain behind to get as much material. Then Irene will use additional magic to process these materials and bring them back to the bakery. Because the ingredients are fresh every day, Irene's bakery is always full of customers, which is one of the secrets of the always hot shop. As for whether the materials Irene planted on the mountain will be destroyed by people, there is no need to worry about it at all. Irene has added magic to that mountain range, and neither wild beasts nor human magisters can easily interfere. Irene is back. As Irene prepared the ingredients, the guests in the bakery greeted Irene one after another. Today I have something to do, and I have to close early, so from now on, all unsold bread in this shop will be half price, first come, first served. There are only so many in total, until sold out. Eileen seemed to have something to discuss with Egwene, but there were too many people in the room, so she thought for a while before speaking to the people in the room. Half price. Very good. I want 5. I want all of these. Jack, save one for me. My children love to eat the bread made by Irene. Since I ate it once, I don't want to eat it anymore. Stay here. Everyone in the town loves to eat the bread made by Irene. If you have the ability, grab it. If you don't, you will go hungry. In less than a while, the bread in the bakery was looted. Irene smiled, watching the customers who snatched the bread and paid for it, and left the bakery, and kept waving goodbye to the customers. It wasn't until after the last customer left that Irene walked out of the bakery, took off the open sign on the door, and replaced it with a closed sign before returning to the bakery. Why is the discount so early today? Yiwen sat on the front desk and asked Irene. Under normal circumstances, they will only sell unsold bread at a discount when they are about to close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Not much, because Irene will adjust the amount of bread made the next day according to the daily sales situation. Today is considered a special case. There's something I need to talk to you about. Irene looked at Yiwen with a complicated expression. Quote ? Yiwen was a little puzzled, but before he could think about it, Irene had already lifted him up and walked towards the stairs behind the bakery. The two went upstairs to the second floor of the bakery, where Egwene and Irene rested. It's actually like this. Egwene, you're going to be an older brother soon. Irene stroked Yiwen's little head and smiled softly. Oh, Egwene nodded, indicating that she understood. Okay. Irene looked at the plain-looking Yiwen with a hint of doubt in her eyes. It seems that Yiwen's reaction was too flat, so she didn't know whether Yiwen could accept that she had a younger sister. I mean, that's great. Egwene also knew that his reaction was too flat, so he tried his best to pretend to be a child's reaction, matching his innocent appearance and preaching. Really, that's great. Originally, I thought you were unwilling to return, Egwene. If you were really unwilling, Yiwen, I originally planned to wait until you were willing. Then give birth to this child. Irene caressed Yiwen's face, showing a relieved expression. In fact, Irene is also very hesitant about the child in her womb, and she will never be able to forgive the father of the child in her womb in this life. But she knew that the child in her womb was innocent, and her contradictory mentality made her hesitate for a long time. In the end, Irene still planned to give birth to the child. By the way, Yiwen. Irene suddenly thought of something, looked at Yiwen and asked, what kind of name do you think should be given to this child? Yiwen was silent for a moment. Irene's child, that is Erza. Erza must be called Erza. It would always feel weird to change her name. Yiwen thought so, and replied, if it's a girl, how about I call it Alusha? Alusha. Irene's face brightened. This is indeed a good name, Alusa Bersarian. Yes, it sounds good. Then it's settled. The child's name is Alusha. Alusa Bersarian, although the surname has been changed, but Bersarian itself is Erza's surname, so it probably doesn't matter. Egwene thought indifferently. Anyway, Bersarian was Erza's real surname. Alusha. Irene was still chanting Ursha's name at this moment, then her eyes became firmer. She looked at Yiwen and said, Yiwen, I am going to give birth. Oh, you're going to give birth. Yiwen nodded flatly, and then opened her eyes wide. Only then did he realize what Irene was talking about, and immediately asked, are you going to give birth? Here. I'm going to the doctor. As Yiwen said, she floated up from the table lightly. This is the weightless state he achieved by using the ability of many fruits. Separation. Before Yiwen floated out of the window, accompanied by a burst of light, a lovely baby had already appeared in Irene's arms. Look, Yiwen, this child is so cute. Looking at the child in her arms, Irene seemed to be healed inside. It's born. Is it born? Suddenly, it's born. Yuen's brain is still in a shutdown state, and the common sense of life in her previous life has now become Yuen's burden in the different world. It's really cute. Yuen floated in front of Irene and Alusha, and he looked at Alusha, who was still a baby, and the corners of his mouth involuntarily raised. Yuen didn't know why, but when he looked at the pure Erza, his desire for power and anxiety about facing the black dragon in the future disappeared completely at this moment, as if everything had been healed. Wow! Just as Yuen and Irene looked at the baby-looking Erza and giggled, as if everything had been cured, Erza suddenly burst into tears. I'm probably hungry. I'm going to find milk powder. It seems that our family has run out of milk powder. I'll go outside to buy it. Yuen looked at the crying Alusa, and immediately floated up, ready to go outside to buy milk powder. Nutrition Plus. Just as Yuen was about to buy milk powder, Irene waved her hand and cast a nutrition-enhancing magic on Erza. Erza immediately stopped crying and continued to sleep quietly. This additional magic is really useful. Yuen looked at Irene's universal additional magic, and was a little greedy. Alusa was born. Irene, I want to learn magic. Yuen thought for a while and asked Irene for advice. To be honest, even if he upgrades his domineering, fruit ability, and physical skills to the full 10th level, he still doesn't have the confidence to deal with Akunologia's ability to devour everything. Therefore, he wants to learn some abilities of this world to help him become stronger. After all, Irene is also within the hunting range of Akunologia. Although Irene never revealed her identity in the original book, even standing in front of Akunologia, she seemed to hide herself well. But after all, the world has changed because of his arrival, Yuen. What if Irene reveals her identity and attracts Akunologia's ambush? The consequences would be unimaginable. Yuen didn't want any tragedy that would make him regret, so he had to become stronger. At least he couldn't become an existence like a drag bottle. Magic. Irene was taken aback for a moment, then asked with a smile, "What do you study magic for?" "I want enough power to protect the people I want to protect without letting myself regret it." Yuen's immature face was filled with the word, seriousness. Yuen doesn't need too much strength, because Mother will protect Yuen, no matter who the enemy is. Irene saw the seriousness and worry in Yuen's eyes. Although she didn't know what Yuen was worried about, no matter how terrifying and powerful what Yuen was worried about, she would swear to protect Yuen and Alusha to the death. If anyone dared to touch her child, she would definitely make him pay in blood. Yuen knew that Irene had feelings for him, but it was also his determination, so he still looked at Irene firmly. "But since Egwene wants to learn magic, then let me teach you." Irene looked at Yuen dotingly, and when she waved her hand, 3 magical light clusters appeared in the air, and then floated into Yuen's body. This is attachment and detachment magic, and my experience in using attachment and detachment magic. There is still a little magic power. Feel it first. Irene added her additional magic and experience to Yuen, and added a little magic power to Yuen. Irene has long discovered that there seems to be no magical power in Yuen's body, and she also knows that Yuen's magical powers are all achieved by relying on the strange fruits in Yuen's hands. And she has already experienced the power of the miraculous fruit, and obtained great benefits. In fact, the human fruit and human form can help Irene much more powerfully than Yuen imagined. This devil fruit not only endows Irene with a human posture, but also further develops Irene's potential, and at the same time endows without the strong durability and physical strength of Irene's animal-type devil fruit. This makes Irene stronger than before. As for the secret of the fruit, Irene didn't ask much. She respected Yuen's own secret and believed in Yuen unconditionally. In fact, ever since Egwene miraculously appeared in front of her and gave her a fruit that allowed her to become a human again, enjoy human sleep, human food, and everything human, Irene had taken Egwene. The encounter between Wen and herself was regarded as a kind of predestined relationship. Is this magic? At the same time, Yuen closed his eyes tightly, and he was feeling the power he had obtained from Irene. To be honest, it is too powerful. The power of attaching and separating magic is like magic. Yuen even feels that as long as she masters attaching and separating magic, she can master all the magic in this world. However, there is one thing that Yuen has a headache at the moment. There is no such thing as magic power in his body. Although, Yuen is not afraid, because there is something wrong. System. Yuan muttered in her heart, and in an instant, the system template appeared in Yuan's mind. Character. Yuan. Physique. Special constitution, can eat multiple devil fruits. Domineering. Knowledge color. LV6+. Armed color. LV6+. Overlord color. LV6+. Devil fruit. Animals. Fish fruit, phantom beasts, blue dragon form, LV6+. Superman. Heavy fruits, LV6+. Natural department sparkling fruit, LV6+. Gymnastics. Swordsmanship, LV6+. 6 types, LV6+. Magic. Magic, LV0+. Additional magic, LV0+. Separation magic, LV0+. Fund balance, 208,908. Sure enough, after Yuan got Irene's help, the words, magic power, additional magic, and separation magic, appeared in his mind, and they had already become upgradable. The limit of additional magic and separation magic is not level 10. It is up to Yuan to explore the specific level of the limit. This system is really evil. Yuan saw that the system counted the addition magic and the separation magic into 2 spells, and suddenly felt a heartache. Counting it as 2 spells, if you upgrade, you need double the funds. Relying on his own 3,000 a day guarantee, if he wants to upgrade to the limit, what life will he get? Helplessness is helplessness, the upgrade is still to be upgraded. Yuan first pressed a plus sign behind the magic power. As Yuan spent a little money, the magic power changed from LV0 to LV1 in an instant. Yuan's funds also changed from 208,908 to 208,907. Yuan watched. The way to upgrade the magic power consumes the same amount of money as domineering, fruit, and body skills, so she didn't hesitate anymore, and clicked on the plus sign of the magic power 5 times, and it was consumed in an instant. 111,110 funds, and Yuan's magic power has also come from LV1 to LV6. At this time, Yuan only had 97,798 funds left. Seeing that the funds in her hand were no longer enough to upgrade any of the additional or detached spells to LV6, Yuan had no choice but to take the next step and upgrade both the detached and additional spells to LV5. In an instant, Yuan consumed 22,222 funds, and at this time, Yuan only had 75,576 funds left. This fund is really not enough. Why is there no cracked version? Seeing that her funds had changed from more than 200,000 yuan to more than 70,000 yuan in an instant, Yuan sighed inwardly. But everything is worth it. Because he has indeed become stronger. With the upgrade of Egwene's magic, the data on his panel was corrected and changed to Magic, Magic, LV6+, Additional Magic, LV5+, Separation Magic, LV5+. Yuan can definitely feel her own strength and the majestic magic power in her body. Now Yuan can already obtain magic power through cultivation like a normal magister. Egwene. Irene felt the change in Yuan, and her expression was a little shocked. She saw Yuan with her own eyes, from an ordinary person without magic power, to a magician with powerful magic power in an instant, although Yuan's magic power is very important to her. It's not worth mentioning, but it can definitely be called a strong one in the outside world. Irene. Yuan wanted to explain his problems to Irene. In fact, he had already thought of the reason. He planned to push all the problems on the fruit to the fruit. Anyway, Irene had already experienced the magical effect of the devil fruit. Egwene, you are a genius. Great, my child is a magic genius. However, before Yuan could explain, Irene had already hugged Yuan and said excitedly. Yuan could tell that Irene was happy for him from the bottom of her heart, and his heart immediately warmed up. He. On the side, Alusha, who was put by Irene in the pram that Yuan used before, also felt something and laughed happily. It seems that even Erza is happy that Egwene has become stronger. This made Yuan's determination even stronger. The next day, in addition to looking after the shop, Yuan also has more tasks to take care of Erza. He controlled the gravity, hugged Erza, who was slightly smaller than him, in his arms, and swayed gently. Because it was in a semi-weightless state, it was almost impossible to use up any of Egwene's strength. Morning Yuan. Morning. With the opening of the bakery, Customers have entered the store to buy fresh bread for their children for breakfast. For these customers, Yuan didn't look up at all. He only had Erza in his arms in his eyes. Ah, what a lovely child. When the customers came in one after another, they immediately found Yuan holding Alusa on the counter. They came closer one by one, looking at Yuan and Alusa in their arms, and they were amazed. It's really cute. Egwene nodded. He was in full agreement with these customers on this point. Whose child is this? Could it be? Is it Irene's child? A customer looked at the crimson short hair on top of Ursha's head. His expression was shocked, and he seemed to think of something, and asked. Well, her name is Erza, she is my sister. Egwene nodded. From Egwene's point of view, this is not something that needs to be hidden. Besides, as Alessia grows up, the people in the town are almost exactly the same as Irene's. You can also see a rough idea of the cheeks. Alusa, good name, but since it's really Irene's child, some people might cry. This group of customers, who looked to be in their 30s and 40s, looked at Yuan and Ursha like eating melons. However, Yuan didn't care about what these customers said at all. He continued to take care of Erza while doing business. Yuan has 2-carat breakfast packs, I put the money here. It is good. Yuan glanced at it casually, and nodded. For regular customers who knew the price, Yuan usually let them pick it up by themselves, pay the money by themselves, take the bread from the basket, and send the empty basket to the old customers after eating. Just come back. The town is not that big. As the number of guests increased, the news that Irene gave birth to a daughter named Erza soon spread throughout the town. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, a man with dark skin due to work problems and a strong figure quietly pushed open the door of the bakery and slipped in when there were fewer people in the bakery. PFF'd, it really is true. As soon as the man entered the bakery, his eyes were firmly locked on Yuan and Erza in Yuan's arms. He looked at Ursha's crimson short hair, and his eyes immediately became red and swollen, with tears rolling down his face. Am I still late? Yuan, is your mother already married? This man was naturally John next door. He looked at Egwene and preached incoherently. Won't you listen to what you're saying? If Yuan was not afraid of destroying the bakery, she would have thrown the guy in front of her with a gravity knife. You'd better come to buy bread. Egwene looked at the tearful John, and after a moment of silence, she preached. Egwene, I won't give up. I won't. John picked out a few breads at random, and he seemed to be planning to say something, but before he finished speaking, he felt a huge repulsive force pushing him out of the bakery. Thank you for your patronage. Egwene collected John's money by gravity and put it in a drawer, while preaching to John outside the bakery. Ha ha ha. In the room, the few customers who had seen the whole process laughed loudly, as if they had expected to see the scene in front of them. Ah, Egwene sighed and continued to nurse the baby. In the following days, in addition to Yuan's 3 daily tasks of looking at the store, the system added 2 new daily tasks. They are, Task 4, please change the diaper before Ursha cries and get 2,000 funds. Task 5, please prepare milk powder for Ursha in time and get 2,000 funds. That is to say, now, if Yuan can complete all the tasks on time every day, she can get up to 7,000 benefits. For Yuan, Ursha is like a lucky cat, which makes Yuan very happy. However, Ursha is a baby after all, whether it is feeding or excreting, it is almost random. Several times, when Yuan was looking at the shop or doing other things, Ursha suddenly grew up. Started to cry, which caught Egwene off guard for a while. Irene also saw all of these things. In order to make Yuan feel more relaxed, Irene paid attention. Ivan, I thought of a very good solution. It can solve our current shortage of manpower. Irene stood in front of Yuan, smiling and preaching. Any solution. Yuan was floating in front of the crib, constantly wiping her sweat. It took a lot of effort for him to coax Erza to sleep just now. We can hire someone else to watch the store for us. Erin spoke out her own method. Hire. Yuan narrowed her eyes slightly. He had actually thought about whether to hire someone else. But to be honest, both he and Irene have a lot of secrets, and I always feel a little uneasy about hiring others. It's always bad if the hired person sees something after spending more time with each other. Although with Irene's magic cultivation, not to mention ordinary people, even the top 10 holy wizards can't see anything, but Yuen still has the principle of being careful to sail for 10,000 years, and she is very cautious about hiring helpers, more sensitive. But I don't want to talk to anyone other than Egwene. While Egwene was thinking, he heard Aaron continue to preach. If you don't communicate with others, how can you hire others? After listening to Irene's words, Yuen was amused by Irene's cute thoughts, and after he smiled lightly, he said, "Forget it, although I am a little tired a little bit, but I can still keep an eye on it, and it will be easier when Erza gets older. So I came up with a brilliant idea." Irene leaned close to Egwene, watching Egwene preaching mysteriously. "Okay." Yuen blinked her big eyes and looked at Irene suspiciously. "Look." Just when Yuen was wondering, Irene waved her hand lightly, and a maid outfit, a rolling pin, and a dark katana appeared in midair, and then Irene looked wearing a maid outfit in the sky, a rolling pin, and a samurai sword. He said earnestly, "I thought about it all night yesterday, and I finally thought of a way to recruit employees without talking nonsense to outsiders, that is to create employees yourself." Exclamation mark. As long as I attach personality to these tools, our understaffing problem can be solved. The moment Irene finished speaking, a dazzling light flashed in front of Yuen's eyes. In the next second, the maid outfit, rolling pin, and samurai sword all disappeared, replaced by three lovely girls. The three girls were dressed in black and white maid outfits, pure white chef outfits, and pitch black combat outfits. Ilya, Ian, Eden, I've seen Lady Irene, Master Yuen, and Miss Erza. The moment the three girls appeared, they knelt down on one knee and spoke respectfully in the direction of Irene, Yuen and Erza. "Look, Yuen, in this case, the shortage of manpower will be solved." Irene looked at Ilya, Ian and Eden with satisfaction. She was very satisfied with her work, and at the same time turned to look at Yuen, smiling. "Indeed, it's solved." Egwene nodded without changing her expression, but felt a shock in her heart. What an exaggerated magic power this is. In the past, because Yuen had no magic power in her body, although he knew that Irene was very powerful, he couldn't feel how powerful Irene was. It wasn't until Irene showed a high-level additional magic in front of him just now, adding personality and magic power to three ordinary tools, that Yuen felt the tip of the iceberg of Irene's majestic magic power. Only by feeling the magic power in Irene's body can Egwene realize her own weakness. At the same time, Egwene finally understands why in the original book, all the magisters of Fairy Tale, including the first-generation President Mebus, have not met her after arriving at Irene. There will be a frightened look on her face, as if she saw some terrible monster, because that is not a magic power of a dimension at all. The most intuitive expression is that even the three personalities that Irene added at will have more magical power than Yuen. You must know that Yuen's magic power has been upgraded to level 6. According to the prompt given by the system, the magic power of level 6 it was already comparable to, or even higher than, some S-level magisters of the Guild of Light, but even so, the magic power in Yuen's body was still smaller than the three personalities that Irene added at random. In other words, in terms of magic power, the three personalities that Irene added at random have the potential of the Holy 10 level. As long as you show some strength outside, clean up some dark guilds, you can easily get the title of Holy 10. Although there is still a gap compared to the previous few, it is not too easy to win the last few. If the members of the Senate know that the 10 strongest magisters in the Ishgar continent selected by them through hard work are just the staff of a bakery in this small town on the border of the Ishgar continent level, you will definitely go crazy. If we go one step further and let the members of the council know that these so-called owners of Holy 10 level magic power are just random soldiers added by Irene, then the members of this group of council may not be as simple as going crazy. Learning magic, practicing magic, and relying on experience to accumulate the concept of magic will collapse in an instant, and will be directly shattered by the incredible scene in front of you. In their eyes, the high-ranking strongman is just an ant that can be wiped out at will in the eyes of others, vulnerable to a single blow. Master, my name is Ilya, and I'm your and Miss Erza's maid. Ilya has a calm personality, with a spring-like smile on her face. She is as beautiful as the big sister next door. Master, my name is Ian. I am the waiter and chef of our bakery. If you have anything to do, Master, just go to Ian. Ian guarantees 10,000% completion. Ian, who is dressed in a white chef's costume, has a lively personality, as if he has endless energy in his body, a proper energetic girl, cute and cute. Master, my name is Eden, and I am responsible for protecting the young master and Miss Erza. Eden in black is taciturn, her eyes are sharp, and she seems to be ready to rule out the dangers around Ian at any time. Eden is a typical cool girl, full of sass. The three personalities attached to Irene are all different and distinct. The future depends on the three of you, thank you. Yuen nodded towards the three of them with respect on her face. Even though the three in front of her were just illusory lives, Yuen still gave them the respect they deserved. With the help of Ilya, Ian, and Eden, Yuen has freed her hands. He only needs to stay in the store every day to complete his daily tasks with ease. When is simply a kind of enjoyment. One Erza is not enough, there are so many. Uncle John, the blacksmith next door, came to Yuen's bakery the next day and saw the three extra girls. After asking the names of the three girls, he looked like he was in tears. What a hit in general. However, even so, I won't give up. John shouted. He bought a bagful of bread, and said seriously to Egwene, Egwene, you go and tell Irene, my heart is not it will become. No matter how many Irene has outside, I am willing to accept it. True love is invincible. Quote. Egwene looked at John speechlessly, not knowing what to say. Thank you for your patronage. Welcome to visit next time. Before John could hear Yuen's answer, John sent out of the bakery under the smiling service of Ilya and Ian. Alert, alert, I found out that someone is plotting to do something wrong. Eden held two small daggers in both hands, protected Egwene's surroundings, and looked at Uncle John warily. No, the other party is just an ordinary person, almost no threat, but... Although Yuen thought so, he still didn't say anything. From Yuen's point of view, it was a good thing for John to get rid of his attachment to Irene as soon as possible. Sometimes, it is a good thing for ordinary people to recognize the reality as soon as possible. In the following days, Yuen lived a boring but meaningful life. Watching Erza grow up day by day, Yuen even had an inexplicable sense of accomplishment. In addition, with the increase of daily missions, Yuen's daily funds are also doubled. Not long after, he had saved enough funds for upgrading, and upgraded the only two LV5s on his panel to LV6. So far, the magic column on Egwene's panel has been corrected to Magic, Magic, LV6+, Additional Magic, LV6+, Separation Magic, LV6+. After reaching LV6, if you want to upgrade again, you will need millions of funds. Even if the funds obtained by Yuen's daily tasks are doubled, it will take time to collect enough funds to upgrade to level 7. Moreover, Yuen discovered that there was a watershed between level 6 and level 7. Once upgraded to level 7, there would be a qualitative leap, and both magic power and magic would be greatly improved. Not only will Yuen's magic power reach the level enough to rank among the Holy 10 in the Ishgar continent, but even the additional magic will reach the level of high-level additional magic from ordinary additional magic. Of course, there is also a qualitative difference between high-level additional magic. Yuen wanted her additional magic to reach Irene's level, and there was still a long way to go. Time flies. In a quiet town, a girl wearing a nightdress with armor, braiding her long crimson hair into a ponytail, and a delicate face of about 10 years old is closely following a girl with short brown red hair who looks about the same age as the girl behind the similar little boy. The two are holding some daily necessities in their arms, such as toothpaste, facial cleanser, towels and the like. Oh, isn't this Egwene and Alusa? Are they out shopping? The two walked forward quickly, but because of their height restrictions, they didn't walk too fast. The owners of some shops in the surrounding towns saw when they arrived. They greeted immediately, "This is our newly caught fish, you can eat it." "Thanks, Uncle Tom, but we decided to have apple pie tonight." Hearing this, the little boy with short brown red hair immediately smiled and shook his head towards the enthusiastic boss, and said, take it, remember to prepare some more of your latest croissant for me tomorrow morning. My kid has been clamoring for it, but every time I go, it's all sold out." The uncle named Tom couldn't help but stuff the fresh sea fish in his hand into the arms of the brown-red short-haired boy. "Then thank you, Uncle Tom." The brown-red short-haired boy, that is, Yuen, bowed slightly towards the owner of the fish shop, thanking him. Then he continued to move forward with the girl with long crimson hair behind him. It's okay, let's go. Isn't your mother still waiting for you? The fish shop owner waved his hand indifferently. Hey, why are other people's children so sensible? Why does that stupid kid in my family know how to fight all day long? Otherwise, he just looks for mud to play with. However, the girl Erza has become more and more graceful in recent years. If she can be my daughter-in-law, hee. The owner of the fish shop looked at the boy and others who were getting farther and farther away, thinking about it in his heart, but after a while he shook his head helplessly, and muttered, let's forget it. My kid is not worthy of being like Ilu. Sarah is such a good girl. The fish shop owner seems to be very self-aware. The boy and the girl continued to move forward, and the scene that was shown in front of the fish shop owner before was happening in the whole town. It seems that boys and girls are very cute in this small town. By the time the boy and the girl arrived at their shop, they almost had too much stuff in their hands. Alusha, put your things down first. Today is your 10th birthday, but brother has prepared a gift for you. The brown red-haired boy saw that there was no one on the left and right, and with a single thought, he dragged all the things on the girl behind him with gravity. In fact, these things themselves were also weightless by the boy. The boy and the girl held these things just to avoid being too ostentatious. But just pretending. Gift? What gift? The girl walked up to the boy excitedly and asked. You'll know when you open it. The boy said, and handed the girl a strange little treasure chest. This is. The girl was puzzled, and after opening the box, she found a strange-looking fruit inside. This is the Superman magnetic fruit. It was also the last devil fruit that Yuan didn't eat. Yes, the boy with short brown red hair is naturally Yuan, and the girl is naturally Erza. 10 years have passed since Erza was born. Because the time when Yuan and Irene met was earlier than the time when Irene and Jeff met. So in the end, Erza, who should have been born in X765, was born a year earlier, in X764. After 10 years, the current time has come to X774, and today is Erza's 10th birthday, so Yuan gave Erza the devil fruit she had prepared. In fact, Egwin originally planned to leave this devil fruit to Erza when Erza was young. At that time, I met a few mischievous magisters who were going to rob Yuan and Irene. Just when Yuan was about to deal with these miscellaneous fish magisters, Erza yelled to protect Egwin and Irene, awakened the dress-up magic knight as in the original book, manipulated the surrounding iron tools, and instantly defeated those miscellaneous fish magisters. Egwin, who watched Erza awaken her innate magic at that time, felt extremely shocked. Innate magic is different from acquired magic. Innate magic is similar to the magic of the world's protection. It does not belong to acquired learning. It is more like a direct gift from the world. People who can often awaken innate magic represent there has great talent. But it's natural for Erza to have talent, after all, her mother is Irene Bersarian. Even in the original book, it only took Erza 3 or 4 years from awakening magic to becoming an S-level magister. In just a few years, she has completed the magic path that mortals can't finish in a lifetime. Powerful can be called terrible. It is also because after Erza awakened the dress-up night magic, Yuan decided to give this superhuman-type magnetic fruit to Erza. Because it just so happened that the characteristics of the Superman magnetic fruit just matched Erza's magic very well. With the help of magnetism, it would be easier for Erza to use the armor of the knight's dress-up magic to fight, and she could also pass through the magnetism. The characteristics of the fruit make up for some shortcomings of Erza's lack of long-range attack. After all, the ability of the Magneto fruit after awakening is a super railgun. Erza, who is invincible in melee combat, is equipped with a long-range output super railgun, and there is almost no shortcoming at all. So beautiful. Just as Erza was looking at the fruit in her hand and couldn't put it down, the door of the bakery was opened, and 3 beautiful girls with different clothes and personalities came out. Master Yuan, and Miss Erza, you are back. Come in quickly. The meal is already the best, and Lord Irene is already waiting for the young master and young lady. Quote. The 3 girls said, and immediately took all kinds of daily necessities floating in the air back into the house, and at the same time beckoned Yuan and Erza to go in. Okay. Yuan nodded first, and then smiled faintly at the 3 girls. Ilya, Ian, Eden, you 3 have worked hard, come in and rest. Okay, master. Hearing this, the three girls immediately followed Egwene and Erza into the bakery. At the same time, before Eden came in, he did not forget to change the sign hanging on the bakery door and replace it with a closed one sign. And these three girls, wearing maid outfits, white chef uniforms, and black combat outfits, are the products of Irene's personality, Ilya, Ian, and Eden. You guys are back. Several people went upstairs to the second floor where they rest on weekdays. In the living room, Irene, who was wearing casual home clothes, had been waiting for Yiwen and Erza for a long time. We're back. Yiwen nodded towards Irene, with a faint smile on her face. Irene, I'm back, and my brother gave me a present. Alusha ran up to Irene excitedly, and took out the gift that Yiwen had prepared for her as if offering a treasure. It's right to call me mother. Irene first pretended to be sullen, and patted Erza's little head lightly, and then looked at the strange fruit in the wooden box in Erza's hand. So is it this thing? Irene looked at this strange-looking fruit. She was taken aback for a moment, and then she showed a gentle smile. She recalled the scene when she first met Egwene. For this, she caressed Erza's baby head, smiled. This is a very precious thing, Erza must cherish it. Well, I know. I will definitely eat all of this fruit. Erza nodded. She decided to eat all the gifts her brother gave her. No, after eating or something, there is no need to. Yiwen, who knew the terrifying taste of the devil fruit, moved her lips slightly. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't say it after all. Speaking of which, 11 years have passed. Irene looked at the warm family in the room with a smile on her lips. Indeed, time flies so fast. Yiwen nodded. He knew that it was time to leave this town. Not only was the mission in his mind updated, but there was also an advanced mission to join any magic guild. What's more, in 11 years, many things have changed. There is a new generation in the town, but Irene's face is as young as ever. In order to reduce troubles, it's time for Yiwen and the others to move. In 10 years, not only the town has undergone earth-shaking changes. Even Yiwen's strength has undergone astonishing changes. The most direct reaction is on Yiwen's property panel. Character: Yiwen. Physique: special constitution, can eat multiple devil fruits. Domineering. Knowledge color: LV7+. Armed color: LV7+. Overlord color: LV7+. Devil fruit. Animals: fish fruit, phantom beasts, blue dragon form, LV7+. Superman. Heavy fruits, LV7+. Natural department sparkling fruit, LV7+. Gymnastics, swordsmanship, LV7+. 6 types, LV7+. Magic, LV8+. Additional magic, LV7+. Separation magic, LV7+. Resistance, toxin resistance, LV7+. Illusion resistance, LV7+. Elemental resistance, LV7+. Time resistance, LV7+. Space resistance, LV6+. Funding, 438,889. In 10 years, Yiwen not only upgraded all her previous attributes to LV7, but also upgraded her magic power to LV8. The magic power of LV7 means that Yiwen's magic power has reached the entry level of the Holy 10, and LV8 means that Yiwen's magic power has reached the 5th level of the Holy 10, which is the so-called limit that human beings can reach. Going one step further, Yiwen's magic power will reach the level of the 4 heavenly kings of Ishgard and the last 3, which is the so-called inhuman level. In fact, the limitless magic power of human beings, coupled with Yiwen's separation, additional magic, and devil fruit abilities, domineering, physical skills, have already allowed Yiwen to cross the continent of Ishgard. Rhodes has huge magic power, but he is not good at fighting. The Magister who has been committed to the greening of Ishgard continent, Yiwen also has a chance of winning. In addition, Yiwen also added resistance to poison, illusion, elemental magic, time magic, and space magic, and also upgraded 4 resistances to LV7, and upgraded 1 resistance to LV6. Yiwen has a 100% advantage over 99% of the Magisters in the world. As for why the resistance is increased, it is what Yiwen has no choice but to say. Although domineering and Yu fruit are powerful and can achieve effective surface defense, they seem to be difficult to achieve against some internal ones, even for a fruit ability user of Teacher Kai's level. and domineering users will still be injured by internal damage. In this world, there is space magic that can directly take out a person's heart from the chest. Unlike Luo's surgery, once the heart is taken out, the person whose heart is taken out will really die. At the same time, there is also magic that directly shrinks the heart of the human body until it disappears. The manipulator of the magic can shrink the scope of the island, or even the country level, so exaggerated that it can shrink the small island to the size of a ping-pong ball. In addition, there are also all kinds of deadly poison magic, illusion magic that drives humans crazy, magic that pauses time, and even more outrageous magic that directly dominates humans. And these resistances can make these magic users unable to exert their due effects when using magic on Egwene. But Yi Wen was not arrogant. Facing a real strong man like Irene, he was still instantly killed. However, Yi Wen is confident that as his funds accumulate more and more, plus additional magic, which can give him additional abilities and directly use the bugs and system upgrades, he will soon grow up and be able to be on his own, at least. He won't be instantly killed by someone of Irene's level. As for Egwene's additional magic, this is simply a bug. Yi Wen can use this magic to add various strange attributes to herself at will. Although there are certain restrictions, she cannot add invincibility, omniscient and omnipotent. Such attributes can be called bug, but they are abnormal enough. However, although the additional magic is powerful enough, Yi Wen still raised the level of domineering, fruit, and body skills, but they did not fall, because Yi Wen knew that magic has a limit, or that in a short period of time, Yi Wen could not improve her level. Magic elevated to a level beyond some. For example, in the Jerf Empire, Ogast, the great lord of magic power who is called the Empire Double Wall together with Irene, has the title of Disaster. It is simply impossible to defeat Olgast, who is known as the King of Magic, with magic. In the original book, even though Gildas found the weakness of the Magic King, which is not considered a weakness, he still failed to completely defeat Olgast. Relieve and feel. Faced with the ability to copy all magic, and can use the heaven-defying magic power inherited from the Black Mage Jelf and the first-generation leader Mebus of Fairy Tail, the copied magic can be used more powerfully than the original magic user. Olgast with stronger effect. Facing this kind of monster, Yi Wen didn't plan to use magic to deal with it. He planned to rely on devil fruit, physical skills, and domineering to outsmart him. He bet that the Magic King couldn't copy his fruit ability, physical skills and domineering. Of course, the premise is that Yi Wen might face the Magic King. The reason why Yi Wen is making preparations now is also to plan for the future. If she prepares in advance, she will never suffer a loss. In addition, at Yi Wen's current level, the funds obtained from daily missions are already negligible. With the funds from daily missions, it will be difficult for Yi Wen to reach the level of dealing with the Magic King even after a few decades. What's important is that the all-out war between the Western continent and the Eastern continent is not far away, and there is no time for Yi Wen to improve her skills, so he set his sights on advanced tasks. Advanced task. Join a Magister Guild at will, and the final rewards will be determined according to the strength and future potential of the guild. After Yi Wen received this high-level task, he had already decided which guild he wanted to join, which must be Fairy Tail, not to mention that according to the system's description, joining Fairy Tail would definitely get the most benefits. Just by pressing the Fairy Tail badge, you can get a magic power bonus, and shout at the critical moment, "We are the Magisters of Fairy Tail." Then you can reverse this point. He, Egwene, must also join Fairy Tail. In other words, if this kind of increase can be controlled at will, according to the exaggerated performance that Yi Wen saw in the original book in her previous life, he would feel that with Irene's strength, he would shout, "I am the Magister of Fairy Tail." As long as the spiritual power is enough, maybe even the little black Akunologia may be killed. Of course, Yi Wen is just thinking about it. After all, this thing is too obsessed and idealistic. It is useful for other people, not necessarily for Yi Wen or Irene. Catch. Erza peeled off the skin of the devil fruit and bit it down. Forehead. In an instant, Erza's cute little face was wrinkled into a ball. Because Erza thought the fruit was delicious, she deliberately took a big bite, but it's so hard to eat. Brother Yi Wen, and Mom, actually lied to me. Erza felt that she couldn't pass her birthday. Aluza, imagine that you can attract anything made of iron. Yi Wen rubbed Erza's little head lightly, and spoke softly. The ability of the superhuman magnetic fruit is not limited to the ability to attract ferromagnetic substances such as iron, nickel, cobalt and other metals. But for Erza, who just ate the Superman-type magnetic fruit, attracting and manipulating ferromagnetic substances should be said to be the simplest operation, just like, Captain Kidd. Okay. After hearing what Egwene said, Erza was stunned for a moment, and then followed suit. Suddenly, all the knives and forks in the room floated up. So amazing. Erza looked at the flying knives and forks, her eyes lit up, she manipulated those knives and forks as easily as commanding a part of her body. This is the effect of that fruit. Yiwen looked at Erza, who had already mastered the ability to manipulate the devil fruit in just a moment, smiled slightly, and preached. I knew that the gift my brother gave me was very strange. Erza took back what she said earlier. Is it magnetism? Eren looked at Erza, who could manipulate metal freely, and instantly recognized the ability of the devil fruit Eren ate. Magnetism, hee. Perhaps all iron attribute magisters are going to cry. Even some thunder attribute magisters are restrained to death. Irene looked at Yiwen and Erza tenderly, and thought silently at the same time. Yes, many years later, in the conflict with the two guilds of Fairy Tail and Ghost Ruler, Erza developed her own new trick, which is called Dragon Slayer Profound Art, Gedgear Flying Sword. At this time, the young Gedgear still didn't know his future destiny. After Erza played with her magnetic ability for a while, everyone started today's dinner. After a while, when everyone had almost eaten, Yiwen looked at Irene and said softly, "That's right, the timing is almost here. I think it's time for us to leave this town." Are you leaving? Erza doesn't seem to want to leave here, after all, this is where she grew up. Yiwen stroked Erza's little head lightly, and said, "Would you like to go with my brother to a place where we can meet many friends of the same age?" A lot of friends of the same age. Okay. Erza thought for a moment, then nodded heavily. Seeing that Yiwen had convinced Erza, she looked at Irene again. Okay, I know. Irene smiled and nodded slightly. She supported all of Yiwen's decisions. Irene didn't ask any more questions, because she believed in Yiwen from the bottom of her heart, and she knew that there must be a reason for Yiwen to leave. A few days later, Yiwen, Irene and the others, taking advantage of the dark, packed up and saluted, and appeared at the edge of the town. Before the carriage, Yiwen looked at the small town behind her for a long time, and finally she looked back, got into the carriage, and under the posture of Ian and Eden, the carriage moved forward into the distance. Their goal this time is the Kingdom of Fury, a permanent neutral country with a population of 17 million, and also the kingdom with the most powerful magic in the entire Ishgard continent. And what Yiwen and the others are going this time is naturally the Magisters Guild in the small town of Magnolia in the Kingdom of Fury, Fairy Tail. Erza was drowsy in the carriage, and Ilya, who was wearing a black maid outfit, sat beside Erza and recovered the quilt for Erza, who had kicked off the quilt from time to time. Irene held a book in her hand and kept flipping through it. This book is the introduction to the Magisters Guild in the Ishgard continent. Although she has lived in this continent for more than 400 years, most of the time he lives in seclusion in the mountains, so he doesn't know much about the layout of the forces on the mainland. Yiwen stared at Irene for a while, and then after confirming that Irene would not get motion sickness, she closed her eyes and rested her mind, adjusting her state. Yes, Yiwen confirmed one thing after seeing that Irene could flip through books in the vehicle like a normal person. After Irene became the Dragon Slayer Magister, the defects caused by the difference between the organs of dragons and humans were made up for by Yiwen's fruit of everyone. As the sky gets brighter, the small town where Yiwen and the others lived was gradually recovering. The ordinary town residents opened their doors and prepared to start their daily lives. A basket of bread, and a beautiful letter. The content of the letter is very short, just a little thank the townspeople for their care over the years. No way. When the townspeople looked at the letters in their hands and ran all the way to the bakery, they found that the bakery was empty, and Irene's family had already left. Let's go. John, who was next door to the bakery, looked at the empty bakery with a complicated expression. What, are you sad? Someone looked at John and joked. Fine. John shook his head. In fact, John had already given up pursuing Irene all these years ago. For 10 years, Irene was let go, but he was not let go. Over the years, countless wrinkles have appeared on his face, some white hairs have appeared in his hair, and his skin has been burnt red because of frequent forging, black. But in the past 10 years, it seems that Irene has been forgotten, and Irene has not reflected in the slightest. Irene is still Irene, beautiful like a crimson rose, a flower that will never wither flowers. John had already guessed that Irene's family was not very ordinary, and ordinary people like him should just live their lives honestly. Why don't you keep this bakery? If Irene and the others come back, there will be a place to stay. What do you guys think? While everyone was whispering and discussing, the mayor of the small town with a gray beard and a cane in his hand asked everyone, asking for their opinions. Okay, it's useless anyway. Yes, just keep it. If Irene still has Yiwen, Erza and the others come back, how sad will it be if there is no place to live? Indeed, we want to eat Aaron's bread again. Following the proposal of the mayor of the small town, all the townspeople decided to keep this bakery called Crimson Goddess. A group of simple-minded townspeople are looking forward to eating the bread made by Irene again one day. Time flies. A week later, after the horse-drawn carriage continued to drive tirelessly, everyone finally came to the vicinity of the small town of Magnolia. Compared to the small town where Yiwen and the others lived before, the small town of Magnolia is much more prosperous and the streets are full of traffic. It is more like a huge city than a small town. And at the back of the center of the town, there is the fairy tale of the Magisters Guild with a long history. At the same time, it is also the destination of Yiwen and others' operation. And the carriage of Yiwen and the others kept driving in front of this guild named Fairy Tale, and then slowly stopped. It's finally here. Yiwen looked at the house with a long history in front of her, feeling quite emotional in her heart. Is this the place? Irene got out of the carriage and looked at the Magister Guild in front of her. She didn't need to enter the guild, but just stood outside the door, and she could instantly see through the entire guild. Oh, there are 2 brats with slightly better strength. There are still a few children with good potential. According to the current standards of this continent, this guild is really good. Irene stood outside the door and made a slight evaluation of the guild in front of her. At the same time, the 2 people who were still drinking near the bar in the deepest part of the guild suddenly paused. They stopped their movements as if they sensed something. Did Kildith feel it? On the old bar, a short, little old man dressed like a circus costume was facing the one sitting next to him who was chatting up the bar lady in the guild. He had short brown red or orange red hair, asked the incomparably muscular Magister. What a wonderful person. President. The Magister named Gildas put down the wine glass in his hand and looked in the direction of the guild gate. Next second, the wooden door of the guild was pushed open. First came in 2 lovely children, a boy and a girl, followed by a beautiful woman in casual clothes. The woman's cheeks and figure were in line with the unanimous preferences of the majority of men, and then there are 3 lovely girls in maid outfits, 1 in chef outfits, and 1 in warrior outfits. The 3 girls obviously follow the lead of the woman in front, and they are obviously servants of women's servants. There are servants. Are they nobles? What a nice view. Macau, be careful that your family sees. You are very annoying. Besides, Wakaba, where are your eyes looking now? You better explain it clearly. A few people entered the guild, and soon attracted a group of members who were drinking and chatting in the guild. After they briefly looked at everyone, they continued to drink and fart. Hey, I don't know how many people, what is the purpose of coming to our guild? When Yiwen and the others walked near the bar, Gildas put down the wine glass in his hand and stood up. He bent down to look at Yiwen and the others, asking. Domineering for a while. Is this the strongest Magister in Fairy Tale? Yiwen looked at Gildas and nodded slightly. He could feel the unfathomable magical power in Gildas, even above him. No wonder Gildas was able to escape from Akunologia's hands. He was born on the day of his birth, and fought back and forth with the magic king Olgast in a short period of time. Ha ha ha, Gildas, it must be that you caused a lot of money outside, and now they bring their children to find you, right? Look, that kid's hair color is the same as yours. It's all brownish red. Ha ha ha, there is a good show to watch. Just as Gildas looked at Yiwen and the others with a serious face, he suddenly heard a loud laugh from someone in the hall of the guild. It's so noisy. Don't open your mouth, no one will treat you as dumb. Quote. Gildas first yelled at those who made a fuss, and then looked at Egwene with a guilty conscience. probably confirming the color of Egwene's hair after matching the color of his own hair. Kildith's body began to tremble slightly. He lowered his head, put his mouth near Egwene's ear, and at the same time lowered his voice, and asked Egwene, "Small boy. Your mother, is it Maria or Sophia?" No, it's difficult, could it be?" In an instant, the domineering Gildas broke his skills and turned into a greasy uncle. "Uncle, you really have an illegitimate child. And it looks like there's more than one of them." The corners of Yiwen's eyes twitched slightly. "Gildas, deal with your own family problems yourself. Don't involve the guild." The little old man sitting on the bar, that is, Makarov, the third-generation president of Fairy Tail, stared at Egwene for a while, then turned around and closed his eyes. A look of out-of-sight and restless heart. "It's not the president, you listen to my explanation." Gildas heard this, and immediately turned to look at Makarov, speaking loudly, as if wanting to explain clearly. Unfortunately, Makarov didn't look back at him at all. It seemed that Makarov had already made up his mind. Seeing that Makarov ignored him, Gildas turned helplessly in Yuan's direction, looked at Yuan again and asked, "So, who is your mother?" I can't remember clearly, ahihi. Quote. Yuan didn't speak, he just felt the breath of scum rushing towards his face. "Egwene, it's my child." Just when Gildas was getting nervous, Irene, who had not moved all this time, spoke. Gildas looked at Irene up and down when he heard the words, and saw him rubbing his chin, up and down, left and right, and after carefully looking at Irene, he breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay, I don't know you. Don't worry, this kid is not my illegitimate child." Gildas smiled relaxedly at his companions in the guild and gave a thumbs up at the same time. "Although Egwene is not my own." Then, Gildas heard Aaron continue to preach. "What?" Gildas, who was about to pick up the beer on the table to suppress his shock, froze immediately, and the beer flowed down Gildas' chin. "It's disgusting." Gildas. Inside the guild, a group of guild members who were looking at Gildas with joking eyes, intending to see a joke, complained collectively. "So whose child are you?" "Maria." No, Maria's pupils are green, and Sophia is blue." "Could it be Sophie's child?" Gildas wiped the beer stained on his chin, rubbed the beard on his chin, and kept looking up and down at Egwene, but even at this moment, Gildas wanted to break his head, but still couldn't remember, what exactly was Egwene, whose child is it? "Hey, I didn't come to find you, I came to join Fairy Tail." Yuan looked at the strong but scumbag uncle in front of her speechlessly. "Join Fairy Tail? Kid, do you want to be the Magister of Fairy Tail?" Makarov, who had been hiding aside to eat melons, heard Yuan's intentions, jumped off the bar, landed in front of Yuan, and asked with his hands behind his back. "Yes." Yuan nodded and looked down at the Fairy Tail Guild leader, who was a little shorter than him, but Yuan did not despise the short Makarov because of this. Although he was no longer at the peak in his prime, Makarov was in his prime. With his powerful magic power and superb magic, he stood firmly at the forefront of the Holy Ten, second only to so-called inhuman existences such as Volod. Besides, when it comes to Makarov's character alone, Egwene will not underestimate the small old man in front of her. "Okay, then you stretch out your hand." As Makarov said, he smiled and took out the seal of the Fairy Tail Guild. "Okay." Yuan was taken aback for a moment, then did as he did, and he stretched out his hand. Immediately afterwards, Makarov stamped the seal of the Fairy Tail Guild on the back of Egwene's left hand. At the same time, Makarov showed kind eyes, as if looking at his own child, watching Yuan preach, "Welcome to Fairy Tail. From today on, we are both companions and family members." So simple. Yuan stared at the seal on the back of her hand for a moment, but no matter whether it was the completion of the high-level task displayed by the system in her mind, or Makarov's welcome, she never stopped saying that he had successfully become a member of the Fairy Tail of the Magister's Guild. A member. You don't need a reason to be a companion and a family member. Makarov nodded with a smile, then looked at Erza and the others, and asked softly, "Who else wants to join the Fairy Tail Guild? Grandpa will press the seal of the guild for you, you can choose the color or position at will." Makarov's smiling face looks like an old fox who has found a good seedling. In fact, he wished that Egwene and others would join Fairy Tail. Besides, based on Makarov's many years of experience, neither Egwene nor Erza is a bad boy. Maybe Yiwen's city is a bit deeper, but compared to Makarov, who has far more experience than Yiwen, he is still too young. I want to join too. Erza raised her little hand. When she saw Yiwen joining, she wanted to join too. Okay, from today onwards, you are also a member of Fairy Tale. With Erza's application and Makarov's seal, Erza officially became a member of Fairy Tale. After stamping the guild seals on both Egwene and Erza, Makarov looked at Irene. Makarov looked at Irene seriously. To be honest, he couldn't see through the woman in front of him at all. He obviously didn't feel any magic flow in the woman's body, but every cell in his body was alert. He stared, as if the woman in front of him was some kind of terrifying monster. Its level of horror far exceeds the sum of all the horrors Makarov has seen in his life. Makarov believed in his intuition. He knew that Irene was definitely not as simple as she was right now. Okay, Irene saw that both Yiwen and Erza had become members of Fairy Tale, so she also joined Fairy Tale with the two of them. She also stamped the seal on the back of her hand. The seal Irene chose the color, like her long crimson hair, is a beautiful crimson. Yiwen looked at the Fairy Tale seal on the back of Irene's hand and heaved a sigh of relief. When Yiwen stamped the seal on the back of his hand, his keen senses caught faint traces, as if there was a mysterious and invisible thread, connecting all the people who have the Fairy Tale metal together. The deeper the bond, the more obvious this feeling is. Egwene can clearly feel the deep bond between Irene and Erza and himself, and at the same time feel Makarov's deep and equal love for all guild members. Sure enough, the badge of this guild is the true background of Fairy Tale, and it is a super magic that surpasses the three major magics of Fairy Tale. Yiwen felt emotional in her heart, and at the same time, she thought silently, if a magister of Irene's level, and then opened the increase of the fetters of the Fairy Tale, how exaggerated would it be? Yiwen stopped after thinking for a while, mainly because it was hard to imagine. As for Ilya, Ian, and Eden, under Irene's instruction, they also joined Fairy Tale, but when Makarov stamped the badge of Fairy Tale on the three, he noticed that something was wrong, but Makarov didn't say much. Everyone in the guild has their own secrets, as long as it doesn't hurt the family, it doesn't matter. Little ones, let's celebrate. In just one day today, we have 6 newcomers. Let's have a drink. As Makarov said, he raised the wine glass in his hand, although even if he didn't say anything, the members of the guild would still drink happily, because this group of people never stopped. By the way, the drink is at your own expense. After Makarov finished speaking, he smiled slyly and added a sentence secretly. Cut. After hearing this, the members of Fairy Tale let out contemptuous voices. Oh, but in the end, everyone still cooperated with Makarov, raised their glasses, and drank in big gulps. With a lot of drinks pouring into their mouths, everyone stopped paying attention to Yiwen and the others. Those who should drink drank heavily, those who should watch tasks kept looking for suitable tasks for them, and those who should fight, after Makarov's words fell, they started to drink again. Started to fight. The entire guild was in a mess again. But this is Fairy Tale. Chapter 11. Yiwen watched everyone in the guild silently, and at the same time received the rewards of the high-level missions. To be honest, the rewards of the high-level missions this time were quite astonishing. Yiwen didn't expect that after joining Fairy Tale, Yiwen would directly get all the rewards. A reward of 100 million funds. Yiwen looked at the Jew funds in her fund column and fell into deep thought. He now has 2 options to choose from. The first is to point most of my abilities to level 8. The second is to increase your magic power to level 9. If the magic power reaches level 9, it will allow Yiwen's magic power to directly reach the inhuman level, that is, to reach the level of the 4 heavenly kings of Ishgard and the last 3. Yiwen thought for a while, and chose to upgrade her other abilities to level 8 first. After all, she had only level 9 magic power, and it was useless without level 9 combat power. Like Volod, who only knows how to plant trees, the first type of tree master in the Ishgard continent is a representative who has no magic power, but does not have the same level of attack magic as his own magic power. After thinking about it, instantly Egwene's character panel is updated. Character: Yuan. Physique: special constitution, can eat multiple devil fruits. Domineering. Knowledge color: LV8+. Armed color: LV8+. Overlord color: LV8+. Devil fruit. Animals: fish fruit, Phantom Beasts, Blue Dragon Form, LV8+. Superman, Heavy Fruits, LV8+. Natural Department Sparkling Fruit, LV8+. Gymnastics, Swordsmanship, LV8+. 6 Types, LV8+. Magic, LV8+. Additional Magic, LV8+. Separation Magic, LV8+. Resistance, Toxin Resistance, LV7+. Illusion Resistance, LV7+. Elemental Resistance, LV7+. Time Resistance, LV7+. Space Resistance, LV6+. Funding, 570,000. Now, Yuan's abilities other than resistance have all reached the 8th level, and the power is constantly flowing in Yuan's body, which makes Yuan feel that her strength is gradually becoming stronger. Ivan, I'll leave Alusa to you. I'll go find a place to stay first. Just after Yuan finished adding points, Irene was about to leave this bustling guild. She prefers quietness and dislikes such a noisy place. Yeah, Erza, leave it to me. Egwene nodded slightly towards Irene. Yuan knew that Irene had lived alone for more than 400 years, and she was not used to living in groups of humans. It is good. The moment Irene got Yuan's response, she took Elia, Ian, and Eden and disappeared into the guild in an instant. That is, not long after Irene and the others left. Something that gave Egwene a headache happened. Erza, who wanted to be friends with her peers, looked around the guild, and her eyes fell on a boy with short blonde hair who looked 13 or 14 years old. In this regard, Erza walked up to the boy politely, and asked with a smile, "Hello. My name is Erza Bersarian, and I am Fairy Tale who joined today. What is your name?" Tisk. The blonde boy, who was in a daze and didn't know what he was thinking about, turned his head after hearing Ursha's words, looked at Erza casually, showed an expression of obvious disgust, and at the same time turned his head forcefully to the other side. On the one hand, it seems that he doesn't want to talk to Erza. Ursha saw the blonde boy's obvious dislike, and the smile on her face froze immediately. She walked around to the side where the blonde boy turned his head, and then slapped the boy's table hard, asking, "Hey. Didn't your family teach you that when someone greets you, you must respond politely? Stop talking. I don't have time to talk to a weak brat like you." The blonde boy had a face full of disgust. What he hated the most were brats, especially weak brats. Little brat. The veins on Ursha's forehead seemed to be stretched faintly. She looked at the blonde boy in front of her with a smirk, and asked, "Ah. You blonde, you can speak well." Quote. Gold, the blonde little fool. The original calmness of the blonde boy disappeared under Arusa's words of the blonde punk, breaking his defense instantly. "Little devil, do you want to fight?" The blonde boy stood up and looked down at Erza. Hit it, who is afraid of whom? Little fool." Erza's eyes flashed with anger, and she confronted the blonde gangster, showing no intention of giving in. "Oh, our newcomer went straight to Lacuse's. Looks like there's a conflict. It's better. Fight, fight, fight." A group of magisters around who had drunk too much watched the conflict between the blonde boy and Erza. Not only did no one try to persuade them to fight, they even yelled loudly. Quote. As for Egwene, he was a little silent at the moment. Originally, he was a little worried that he raised Erza too ladylike, which made Erza unable to integrate into Fairy Tale, but now it seems that he was worried too much. Erza seemed to be born to join Fairy Tale. Similarly, when Erza enters Fairy Tale, the painting style enters the reassuring Fairy Tale mode. Fight, fight. At this moment, even Gildas, who was sitting next to the bar, raised his beer glass in his hand after seeing the confrontation between Lacuses and Erza, and kept shouting as if watching the excitement. Quote. Seeing that the strongest magisters in Fairy Tale have such virtues, this made Yuan a little silent. Who are these guilds? At the same time, Yuan thought silently in her heart that she absolutely couldn't become such a virtuous person. Little devil, don't think that I will show mercy to you because you are a girl. Seeing that the atmosphere has been heightened here. The blonde boy's eyes gradually became sharper, and there seemed to be lightning flashing around his body. I don't need the yellow-haired fool to show mercy. The young Erza already had the aura of a queen, and the magic power inherited from Irene was stirring around Erza. This magic power. The blonde boy felt the magic power around Ursha, and there was a hint of surprise in his eyes, and the boy's eyes also changed a little bit. The next second, he turned into a thunderlight, towards it maybe because Erza is a girl. The blonde boy did not forget to remind Erza when he attacked Erza. In this case, I will make a move. Facing the attack of the blonde boy in front of her, Erza did not change her expression. While her mind was turning, all the metal objects in the room suddenly vibrated, and in the next second, they flew directly in front of Erza. In front of him, a huge, electromagnetic iron wall was formed. Boom! With the iron wall blocking him, the blonde boy's attack naturally fell through. The boy's attack landed on the iron wall. Whether it was the strength on his wrist or the lightning wrapped around his fist, they all disappeared. What? The blonde boy didn't seem to expect that the young Erza could use such a defense, and there was a hint of disbelief in his expression. There is a flaw. And Erza accurately grasped the momentary gap of the blonde boy, and saw that she held an iron sword made of metal in her hand, and slashed at the blonde boy. Forehead. As Erza's iron sword hit, the blonde boy was sent flying. Hey, are you kidding me? That Lacuzes was actually killed by his peers. In the guild hall, the magisters looked at the blonde boy who was beaten flying, with eyes full of disbelief. You must know that the blonde boy is not an ordinary person. His name is Lacuzes Dolea. He is the guildmaster of Fairy Tale and the grandson of Makarov. Although he is young, his strength has already surpassed 99% of the magisters in the guild. He is even regarded by many people as the person most likely to become an S-rank magister after Gildas. However, it is such a powerful existence, and now it is suppressed by an unknown little girl, which shocked the group of old alcoholics in the guild, and at the same time found it interesting. Yes, the group of people in the guild are all old lazy people. Hateful. At the moment when the magisters of the guild kept exclaiming, Lacuzes, who had knocked several tables and chairs into the air, stood up staggeringly. He gently stroked his chest. There was a dull pain, which made Lacuzes' face a little pale. Lacuzes. Just as Lacuzes was stroking his chest and staring at Erza viciously, Gildas suddenly stood up. Are you going to comfort Lacuzes? Although it seems unreliable on weekdays, the critical moment is still very. Yiwen, who had been paying attention to her side, saw Gildas standing up and walking towards Lacuzes, thinking silently in her heart. Puff ha ha ha. Lacuzes, you were actually defeated by a little girl younger than you. How embarrassing. Without waiting for Egwene to think about it, Gildas hilariously laughed while pointing at the pale Lacuzes with one hand. And Yiwen silently retracted her previous thoughts. It's so annoying. Uncle. Lacuzes glared at Gildas, then walked up to Erza, and said with a dissatisfied expression, I was careless just now. Come again. HMPH, I don't want to fight with a nameless, impolite, and uneducated little fool. Erza turned her head away, ignoring Lacuzes. My name is Lacuzes Dolea. Lacuzes said his name while looking at Erza and asked, Woman, can we continue our battle now? At this moment, Lacuzes no longer regarded Erza as an ordinary kid, but an existence called an opponent. Lacuzes, who had been unable to find an opponent of his age in the guild, felt a little joy in his heart after being hit by Erza. I reject. I'm not interested in you anymore. Erza shook her head at Lacuzes, her eyes looked around, and finally her eyes locked on the corner of the guild. Sitting there was a girl who looked about the same age as Erza. The girl had exquisite facial features and was wearing a white plain dress. Unlike the hilarious members of the Fairy Tale Guild, the girl looked very quiet. When Erza was looking towards the corner, the girl happened to be looking in Erza's direction too. After their eyes slightly touched, the girl lowered her head shyly. This girl looks like she could be friends. Erza looked at the girl's performance and nodded in satisfaction, then strode forward and walked towards the girl. Hi, my name is Erza Bersarian. Erza walked up to this quiet girl with long dark brown hair, stretched out her hand towards the girl, smiled and introduced herself. My name is Kana Arupalona. The girl introduced herself a little shyly. From today, we are friends. Erza patted Kana's shoulder lightly, and became friends with Kana. In fact, Erza didn't know how to make friends with others at all. When she was in the small town, she only had Egwene as her playmate. Okay. Kana nodded. She was not surprised by Erza's familiarity, because the people in this guild, all of them are like this, a familiar look. Quote. After Kana became friends with Erza, her expression flickered with a bit of hesitation. She seemed to have something to ask Erza, but she was too embarrassed to ask. Ask whatever you want. After all, we are friends now. Friends should talk about everything. Erza was keenly aware of Kana's hesitation. She smiled and signaled that Kana could ask her whatever she wanted. In fact, she had already practiced what questions friends would ask and how to talk in advance, so she was very concerned about herself. Still very confident. Kana nodded slightly after getting Ursha's consent, and then there seemed to be tears in her eyes. She held Ursha's little hand tightly and asked, "Is Yuen really happy? Is it the illegitimate son of Gildas?" What? Erza, who had already prepared all the answers, such as where did the family live before, what did the family do, and how many people were in the family, froze in place. She didn't expect that Kana would ask her such words. Not interested in me anymore. On the other side, Lakuzes, who was rejected by Erza, felt that his heart had been severely hit. He knelt on the ground with one knee, and cold sweat continued to flow from his forehead. Puff ha ha ha. Lakuzes, you were rejected the first time you took the initiative to invite a girl, how embarrassing it is. Gildas stood beside Lakuzes, laughing loudly, constantly laughing at Lakuzes' embarrassing performance. Don't be annoying, uncle. Lakuzes' face changed, and at the same time he said to Gildas. I became angry from embarrassment. Gildas caressed his abdominal muscles with his palms, and the corners of his mouth almost went up to the sky. Hey, that illegitimate son of Gildas. Come and fight with me. Lakuzes ignored Gildas and turned to Egwene. What? Yuen looked around, and after confirming that Lakuzes was calling him, she frowned. Hey, Lakuzes, don't cause trouble for me. Before Yuen could say more, Gildas' fist had already landed on Lakuzes' head. It hurts. Lakuzes touched the bag on his head, and he didn't care. He stared at Yuen and said, since you are that woman's brother, you should be very strong too. And how do I practice? Now you will be killed by me in seconds. Yuen looked at Lakuzes flatly, expressionless, he was just stating a fact. Oh, interesting, I want to see how you kill me in seconds. After hearing what Egwene said, Lakuzes was not only not angry, but was eager to try. In that case, Yuen moved her body and looked at the 13-year-old Lakuzes. Shave. In order to educate Lakuzes a little bit, Yuen didn't talk too much nonsense. The power of the 6 forms erupted on Yuen's body instantly. He turned into an afterimage and came directly in front of Lakuzes. The fist swung out and landed directly on Lakuzes' stomach. Puff. The huge force caused Lakuzes to kneel directly on the ground, he kept retching, his eyes rolled. With Egwene's speed, even the young Lakuzes couldn't react at all, so he clutched his stomach and fell to the ground, losing consciousness. Actually, I want to compete with you more than Lakuzes. After Yuen knocked Lakuzes unconscious, she looked at Gildas beside her. Yuen, who has been upgraded to level 8, wants to compete with Gildas, the man who stands at the top of the Fairy Tale Guild. Sure enough, the amazing magic power outside the guild just now was released by you. Gildas looked thoughtfully at the knocked-out Lakuzes. In the corner of the Fairy Tale Guild. Of course not. Erza crossed her arms in front of her body while shaking her head constantly. Egwene was her brother. How could it be the illegitimate child of a stranger? But she had heard from Irene that Yuen didn't seem to be her biological brother. But speaking of, there are so many magic guilds in this world, why did Yuen choose to join Fairy Tale? And Egwene's hair is almost the same color as that uncle named Gildas. Thinking of this, beads of sweat kept falling on Ursha's forehead. The main reason is that this is too frightening to think about, she can't help but think about it. So much so that in the end, Arusa herself was a little uncertain. So, it should, probably, not, right. Erza looked at Karna and replied hesitantly. So, is it, or is it not? Karna felt like her heart was going to be broken. It had been 2 years since she joined Fairy Tale. During these 2 years, she never had the courage to find Gildas to recognize her. However, this is not the most painful thing. The most painful thing is that in 2 years, not only did she not get to know Gildas' father and daughter, but what she waited for was a brother who was suspected of being her half-brother. Karna didn't know what to say at the moment. Lakuzes was seconded. As the new kid a monster. I heard that the new kid wants to challenge Gildas. Real or fake? Just as Kana was talking with Erza, the entire guild suddenly went into an uproar. Members of the guild lowered their wine glasses and gathered in front of Egwene and Gildas. At this moment, Yi Wen and Gildas were facing each other, and between them lay a yellow-haired boy who was foaming at the mouth. Yes, that yellow-haired boy was Lacuse's. Gildas wants to fight someone else. Kana was taken aback, as if no one had challenged Gildas since she joined the guild, and Gildas has always been the strongest and most invincible existence. Brother Mingming himself said that it's best not to cause a big disturbance. It's really worry-free. When Erza heard that Yi Wen was going to fight Gildas, she put her hands on her hips, frowned, and complained. Anyway, let's go and have a look together. Erza sighed, looking around. Her friend Kana, whom she had just made, sent an invitation. It is good. Kara nodded slightly upon hearing this. At the same time, are you sure you want to fight me? Gildas looked at Egwene with a smile on his face. I want to see the gap between myself and the strongest guild. Yi Wen nodded. He could feel that the magic power in Gildas' body was higher than his. Simply put, the Gildas in front of him had inhuman-level magic power and was a real monster. But this is of course, you must know that Gildas is a monster that can survive from the hands of the black dragon Akunologia, even after losing his left hand, left foot, and part of his internal organs, and he is still wrapped in bandages. It's not completely healed, and you can still feel the pain of the wound. Still able to suppress the second in command of the Devil's Heart of the Dark Magisters Guild formed by Fairy Tale's second-generation President Precto, the Great Magister Bruno Stega, who is known as the Lifeless Great Magister, even seriously defeated Bernat in an instant. As for the strength of the second in command of the Devil's Heart, Bruno Te, he claims to be able to rival the top 5 of the Holy 10. In other words, the strength of this Bruno is comparable to that of Juris 7 years later. It is also the level of the so-called human limit. In Yi Wen's opinion, Gildas who is not injured now is stronger than Gildas who was severely injured by the Black Dragon many years later. It is probably second only to the one who healed his injuries and returned from practice a year after the disbandment of the Fairy Tale Guild, that Gildas who could fight the Magic King Olgast twice. Interesting. Then let's go out and compete for a while. With our strength, if we fight in this guild, the president will probably cry, right? Gildas looked around, looked at the crowd, shook his head slightly. The guild was too small, both for him and for Yuan, he couldn't let go. It is good. Egwene nodded slightly. Then how about going to the back mountain of the guild? There are usually no one to bother you there. Gildas suggested. Egwene nodded. No matter where he fought, it didn't matter. Follow me. After finishing speaking, Gildas put on a cloak and walked towards the outside of the guild. Okay. When Yi Wen agreed, her body floated up from the ground lightly. The two of them headed towards the back mountain like this. As for Lacuse's lying in the middle of the two, they have completely forgotten about it. Let's go and watch the fun. The magisters in the guild looked at Gildas and Yi Wen, who were about to go out for a fight, and ran out of the guild excitedly. When Gildas and Yi Wen found a good position in the back mountain, there were already people standing around them, and even Makarov left his guild and came to the back mountain. I saw Makarov holding a small box in his hand and kept yelling, "Beer and popcorn are sold in the front row." Behind Makarov, there are crates of beer and snacks brought up by him using giant magic. In addition, Makarov has other jobs. The market is open, the market is open. Bet on Gildas to win red, and bet on Super Rookie Yi Wen to win blue. Everyone, take a bet now and drive a limited edition Magic 4-wheel drive next year. Makarov kept making noises, and as the president of Fairy Tale, he chose to take the lead in opening the game. As for whether Makarov would feel unconscionable by opening a gambling game to make money, he would die laughingly. Not at all. Who knows how many times he has to wipe the ass of his group of fools every year. Every time these fools get into trouble, how much does he need to spend? If he doesn't get some money from these fools now, his conscience will hurt instead. I'll buy 10,000 J Gildas to win. With a pipe in his mouth, Wakaba took out 10,000 J symbolically. In fact, everyone didn't take this gamble seriously. Everyone just wanted to have fun and get a lottery. I also buy Gildas. Gildas 10,000 J. Sure enough, Gildas will never lose. With the opening of the game, it almost became a one-sided situation, and everyone bought Gildas to win. You all buy Kildas to win, this bet will not work. Makarov wanted to cry but didn't cry, although, in fact, he also bought Gildas to win. I'll buy 100,000, brother Yuen, and win. However, just when everyone was betting on Gildas to win, a distinctive voice sounded slowly. Everyone was stunned when they heard this distinctive voice. In fact, no one would think that someone other than Gildas would win the victory. Who bought Egwene to win? Hearing this distinctive voice, Makarov was so moved that tears flickered in his eyes, and he asked excitedly who bought Egwene. Erza in the crowd stretched out her little hand, and what she held in her hand was 100,000 J banknote. Very good, Erza. Makarov held Ursa's hand excitedly. He took out the banknotes from Ursa's hand and kept them while watching the other people in the guild say dissatisfiedly. Said, you should learn from Ursa, who said that Yuen will definitely lose. So President, don't just talk about us. You can buy Yuen to win. Mikao walked up to Makarov, with a smile in his eyes, and teased. Me. Cough cough, I bet on Kildas to win, he has a reason. Makarov turned his head, not daring to meet Mikao's eyes. Don't you want to win money too? The other people in the guild looked at Makarov's appearance and complained one after another. Shut up, I'm the president. Makarov saw himself being exposed, and immediately took on his identity as the president to suppress everyone. Cut. However, the members of Fairy Tail don't take Makarov's tricks at all. At the same time, Kildas and Yuen, who were confronting each other, moved first. The first person to act is Yuen. I saw the magic power riot in his body. Add flames. In just an instant, Yuen added flames to the air. Boom. In an instant, the air in front of Gildas was directly ignited. At the same time, all the spectators at the rear felt the heat in front of their eyes. Seeing that there was no warning in front of them, a huge fireball with a radius of more than 10 meters rose up. That fireball is like a miniature sun. The terrifying temperature seems to ignite the surrounding trees. Are you kidding? Such a big fireball. Could it be? Is this kid a real monster? The members of Fairy Tail, who were returning to watch the battle, stared wide-eyed at the huge fireball and the oncoming heat wave. That's why I said, brother, he won't lose. Erza looked up at the huge fireball with a calm expression, as if she had expected Egwene's strength. Split. Facing the huge fireball, Gildas looked calm, and waved his hand to the sky, emitting a burst of white light. Boom. In an instant, the huge fireball attached by Yuen was divided into countless pieces, and finally disappeared into the sky. It's an exaggeration. The members of the guild watching the battle were all dumbfounded at the moment. The beer and popcorn in the hands of some members fell on the ground, but they didn't realize it at all. They all looked at the sky intently. My fireball is still too small. If it were Irene, it should be able to destroy Magnolia directly, right? Egwene was floating in the sky, dissatisfied with the additional magic she had just released. You still want to destroy Magnolia? Makarov's eyes widened. He originally thought that Egwene was the type who would calm down and not cause trouble, but now it seems that he was worrying too much. That type of magister would never come to his fairy tale. Moreover, seeing Yuen use a calm tone and say the gesture of destroying Magnolia, Makarov can feel how much trouble Yuen can cause in the future. It seems that there will be a regular review in the future. Makarov seemed to have seen his future, so he would go to the Magic Council meeting every now and then, as if he was constantly doing self-criticism. However, a magister who is fairy tale should have this vigor, the Magic Council. To hell. Kildas won't lose, will he? At this moment, some of the guild members began to whisper with guilt. Kildas will not lose. He is the strongest. Kana, who was wearing a long white dress, was weak, cheering for her father. That's not necessarily true. Brother Yuen hasn't used all his strength yet. Erza shook her head after hearing Kana's words. Boy, you almost set my hair on fire just now. It's dangerous to use this level of magic at such a close range, okay. Gildas looked at Yuen floating in the air and shouted loudly. In this case, then change the attribute. Thinking about it, Yuen took a deep breath, and in the next second, a blue-white thunder spit out from Yuen's mouth. Exactly, the ability of Yu Fruit Phantom Beast species Blue Dragon form. Is this the same magic as Lak uses? Makarov was startled when he saw the scene of lightning spitting out of Yuen's mouth. Hey, besides flames, can you use lightning? It's surprising, but Kildas blocked Egwene's lightning with his cloak in time. His eyes were sharp, and the majestic magic power gathered directly in Kildas's hand in the next second. In an instant, Egwene's lightning was shattered into countless pieces by Gilda's shattering magic. Sure enough, even lightning can shatter. Egwene is not surprised that Gildas can crush his thunderbolts. Although Gildas did not fight Lacuzes in the original book, Gildas once fought against the weakened version of God Serena. However, Serena's body has 8 Dragon Slayer crystals with different attributes: water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, rock, light, and darkness, which means that Kildas is likely to be able to crush any magic element, including thunder, wind, light and other invisible magic elements. Little devil, be careful. Gildas looked at Yuen, who was lost in thought, and gave a little reminder. Okay. It was also at the moment when Gilda's voice fell, Yuen's sense of knowledge became alert. I saw that the white light that shattered the magic of Gildas did not intend to stop after smashing Yuen's lightning, but directly followed Yuen's lightning and wrapped it towards Yuen, covering Yuen in an instant. When on the surface. Sorry brat, I'm going to end this fight. As Kildas said, he clenched his palm, pointing at Egwene slightly into a fist. In an instant, Egwene's body was crushed by Kildas and turned into a ball of light. It's over. Gildas looked at Egwene, who was hit by his magic in the sky, and said calmly. As expected, Gildarth won. The members of the guild, watching from a distance, looking at the indifferent Kildas, all showed such expressions. I'm a little relieved. But that Yuen is really strong. Yes, already have the strength of an S-level magister. Why don't the president directly promote Yuen to an S-class magister? I think Yuen's strength is enough, right? A group of guild members, who were slightly relieved because Gildas won, looked at Makarov standing in front of them, and suggested. Turn down. No matter who you are, you must abide by the rules of Fairy Tale. Only those who have participated in the S-level Magister assessment and passed it can be awarded the title of S-level Magister in the guild, otherwise, no matter how strong they are, it will definitely not work. Makarov folded his hands in front of his body, with an expression that everything must be done in accordance with the rules and regulations. President Makarov, you are too serious, aren't you? The members of the guild heard the words and complained one after another. Shut up, fools, it's the rule. Makarov slapped the members behind him, while emphasizing the word rules. Ha. Makarov's words made the members of Fairy Tale burst into laughter. They seemed to be laughing that their president actually mentioned the word rules. Does Fairy Tale have rules? Quote. Makarov listened to the laughter of the group of silly children behind him, who didn't give him face at all, and bowed his head guilty. Yes, even he himself was a little guilty about the word rules. In fact, in Fairy Tale, except you can't hurt your companions, family members, and you can't spread bad information about Fairy Tale, other rules can be broken. Makarov has always believed that magic is free, and only freedom can cultivate the best magisters. I'm thirsty after the battle. Sure enough, it's better to go back to the guild and drink a few glasses of refreshing and cold beer. Kildas looked a little tired. He just wanted to go back to the guild quickly and drink a whole mug of beer. Phew. However, just as Kildas was about to leave, a ray of light suddenly fell from the sky and shot directly at the road where Kildas was about to advance. Okay. Gildas looked at the scorched land in front of his eyes. He was taken aback for a moment, and then looked at the sky solemnly. In the air, it was hit by Kildath's disintegration magic. In Kilda's eyes, if Egwene was hit by his disintegration magic, she should turn into countless little Egwene and lose her fighting ability. However, Egwene did not turn into countless little Egwene as Gildas had imagined, but turned into groups of golden light clusters, and then, under the watchful eyes of Kildas and others, they first condensed into a group. A finger, followed by a palm, an arm, half of the body, and finally turned into the appearance of Egwene, floating in the sky. Hey, do you still have such troublesome magic? Gildas looked at Yuen, who could turn himself into an element, with a headache on his face. What he hated most was fighting such an invisible magister. So that's the case. I was careless just now, so next, I have to be serious. You have to be careful, Kildath. After Yuen finished speaking, his body directly turned into countless golden light clusters, and spread towards the sky, quickly illuminating half of the sky. 8-foot Chong Guyu. As Yuen's voice fell, countless flashes shot towards Kildith. Hey, are you kidding? Isn't Egwene killed? Everyone watching the Battle of Fairy Tail showed shocked expressions when they saw Yuen, who was unharmed. Wait, that thing is not good. At the same time, when Yuen released the 8-foot Chong Guyu, a Magister showed a bad look. Boom. In the next second, countless lasers landed on the ground of the back mountain, and each shot would blast the ground into a huge deep pit with a diameter of about 10 meters. Retreat first. Seeing the countless laser rain, some Magisters kept retreating behind in order to avoid being accidentally injured. Boom. In an instant, everyone cleared out a large open space, leaving only Kildas, who greeted the 8-foot Chong Guyu alone. Kildas. Kana looked at Kildas, who was standing in the clearing, watching the light and rain in the sky gradually smile, and shouted nervously. Danger. Makarov, who had been paying attention to everyone's safety, suddenly grew his arms, and directly pulled Kana from the front position to the back, protecting her. It was also not long after Makarov took Kana away that a laser shot fell on the position where Kana was standing before, which was relatively forward, and a big hole was blown out. Okay. Ha. Kildas seemed to have heard Kana's call. He lowered his head and showed a soft smile towards Kana. In the next second, Gildas was engulfed by the laser rain. Boom. Countless laser rain fell on the position where Gildas was standing, and directly exploded layers of air waves. The terrifying light rain, even the aftermath, made everyone present unable to approach. No way. Could it be that Gildas was killed directly? A member of the guild swallowed a mouthful of spit as he stared at the endless light rain in front of him, and couldn't help asking. After all, the power of this light rain is too amazing. If they turned into them, they would probably have been annihilated by the bombing fly ash. Kildas. Listening to the other members talking to themselves, Kana became more worried. It's okay, Gildas, he is the strongest Magister in Fairy Tail. Makarov, who was protecting Kana behind him, seemed to see Kana's worry. He gently stroked Kana's head with his generous palm, and spoke softly. Okay. After hearing the words of the chairman Makarov, Kana nodded heavily. She believed in Makarov and the chairman. Boom. When a gust of wind howled, the light spots like a shower finally stopped, and a puff of smoke covered everyone's sight, making it difficult for people to see exactly what happened to Gildas, who was hit by the light rain. It wasn't until a burst of light came on and the endless smoke was shattered that Kildith's whole appearance was revealed. At this moment, the cloak on Kilda's body was full of holes. Obviously, his worn-out cloak had been scrapped. As for Gildas himself, his body was unharmed, and his eyes were shining brightly. Yuen, I'm going to be serious. Kildas seemed to be full of blood for a long time. He stomped his feet hard, and the ground was instantly shattered by Kildas' shattering magic, and then Kildas flew directly into the sky with this impact. Hey, so what shall we do? The ground is about to collapse. It's about to fall. Isn't this the end? However, the members of Fairy Tail who were watching the battle were not so lucky. As Gildas smashed the cliff floor of the back mountain, they lost their footholds one by one and fell from the sky. That's why I said don't watch Gildas fight. As an old man in the guild, Mikau calmly enjoys the feeling of weightlessness standing shoulder to shoulder with death, and he has a lot of experience at first glance. Isn't it dead now? A guild member held his head and cried bitterly. Little ones, hurry up. Just as the members of the guild were yelling in fear, the calm Makarov's body shone with a golden light. The warm and terrifying magic power surged on Makarov's body in an instant, and his body size instantly grew larger at a speed visible to the naked eye. A small pit, he fell to the ground at an extremely fast speed, and at the same time embraced all the members of the guild in his arms. Call. Fortunately, the president is with us. Lying in Makarov's arms, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They felt the warmth from Makarov's chest, and felt inexplicably at ease. Why do you think I want to come with you fools? Makarov educated the little ghosts in his arms. In fact, the reason why he threw the stunned Lakuzas to Poliusica was that he hurried over. Selling alcohol to make money was one thing, but mostly, to prevent Kildith from hurting these idiots after hitting the red eye. After all, Kildas is the idiot among idiots. When he gets excited, he doesn't care about his surroundings at all, and he often makes a mess of the town. It's impossible not to be careful. But having said that, Yuen is stronger than I imagined. With this strength, you can even defeat the last few members of the Holy 10 Mile. Even if he is granted the title of S-rank Magister in advance, maybe it's okay. No, rules are rules. Just when Makarov was thinking about whether to give Yuan the S-rank title in advance, Kildas and Yuan fought fiercely in the sky. What? Under a burst of sonic boom, Gildas came to Yuan in an instant, clenched his fists tightly, and slammed towards Yuan. Egwene didn't change her expression when facing Gildas' fist, and shielded her hands in front of her body. Boom! Accompanied by a roar, Yuan, who was hit by Gildas' punch, turned into a golden light and fell into the depths of the forest in an instant, knocking down rows of trees directly. However, in an instant, Yuan turned into golden light, flew out of the deep pit unharmed, and regained her human form. Crush! Just as Yuan regained her figure, a big hand shining with white light appeared in front of Yuan. Okay. Yuan's pupils shrank suddenly, and Gildas's speed exceeded his knowledge. Is it magic? Before Egwene could think about it, the white light instantly lit up. Boom! The entire forest, together with the 3 high mountains in the distance, was instantly blasted into countless clouds, and thousands of trees flew directly into the sky. Isn't it too exaggerated? Lying in Makarov's arms, the members of Fairy Tail who watched the battle from the special spectator seats stared wide-eyed at the disappearing forest and mountains. Buzz! Egwene, who escaped Gildas's attack by elementalization in the air in advance, slowly appeared among countless trees that were blown away. Ah! Turned into light again, did you avoid it? Gildas looked at Egwene in the air and muttered to himself. Kildas, let you see my trick. Yuan floated in the air, clasped her hands together, and instantly there was an invisible gravity wave on his body, rising towards the sky. Then, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Minutes and seconds passed, and nothing seemed to happen. What happened? Could it be that the magic failed? A group of Fairy Tail members standing in the special seats looked at Yuan with her hands clasped together. They instinctively thought that the matter was far from simple. They thought that Yuan would release some great magic that shocked them, but they watched the time pass. There was still no movement of magic, so they couldn't help asking. However, Makarov, who was holding a group of magisters in his arms, suddenly felt palpitations in his heart. He looked up at the sky, thoughtfully, and muttered to himself, Hey, it can't be. No, it's not that the magic failed. Egwene, he, was released successfully, this is really. ... It's a little exaggerated. This kind of magic, isn't it just a joke? It is a super dangerous magic that should never be used in a competition with your companions. Yuan. Just when everyone was wondering, Makarov seemed to be looking at the cloud-shrouded sky in response. A few drops of cold sweat dripped from his old cheeks. Call. In the next second, the cloud layer seemed to be boiling, and it kept rolling. Immediately afterwards, a huge rock burning with flames directly smashed through the thick clouds in the sky, as if the sky had split open for a moment. And in front of everyone's eyes, he showed his whole picture. Are you kidding me? That's a meteorite. A group of Fairy Tail members lying in Makarov's arms widened their eyes and looked at the sky in disbelief. The cloud broke through and was ignited due to high-speed friction. They were covered in flames and fell rapidly. Rock, sermon. Hey, Egwene, you are the child who keeps surprising me. Kildas looked at the burning meteorite that was falling towards him rapidly, and opened his eyes excitedly. He stretched out his hand to the meteorite in the sky in a leisurely manner. Crush, shine with white light. The huge meteorite instantly turned into countless fragments. At the same time, most of the power was removed. The meteorite was crushed. Ha, what? These two guys are completely monsters. The members of Fairy Tail who were watching the battle hadn't come out of the shock brought by the meteorite. They saw the meteorite they absolutely couldn't resist, turned into countless fragments in Kildat's hands. That, by the way, is it more dangerous to us after it is shattered into pieces. A member of Fairy Tail complained in Makarov's arms. It doesn't matter, we have the protection of the president. Some members preached indifferently. Then, they felt that their eyesight was getting shorter and shorter. After a while they landed on the ground. So, a group of guild members suddenly had a bad premonition in their hearts. You guys figure it out for yourself. I have something urgent to do. After Makarov left such a sentence, he ran directly towards the direction where Kildas and Egwene were fighting. So, some guild members who hadn't reacted asked suspiciously. So spread your legs and run. Before he could react, some experienced members had spread their legs and sprinted towards a safe place with all their strength. Run. After someone took the lead, the others realized that they were going to run away now. Shish. It was also shortly after everyone started to move towards a safe place, the meteorite fragments in the air fell on the ground, blasting the ground out of huge deep pits. It's really dangerous. The members of Fairy Tale, standing in a safe place and watching the forest being bombarded constantly, whispered softly. Right now, they have no intention of caring about the outcome of Yiwen and Kildith. Any outcome is far less important than survival. The other side. As the meteorite bombs fell one after another, Yiwen and Kildith showed a smile, which was the smile of seeing their opponents. The two didn't talk nonsense, and moved towards each other at a very fast speed. That's it. Just as Egwene and Kildith began to gather their magic power and started a new battle, two big hands landed on the heads of Egwene and Kildith, separating the two and striking hard for a moment. Okay. With the pain in their heads, Yiwen and Kildith gradually calmed down. You two give me a good look around. Makarov asked angrily after separating the fiercely fighting Egwene and Kildith with his arms around his body. Call out. Boom. Crack. Boom. Kildith rubbed his chin, looking at the falling meteorite bombs, shattered burning trees, and the potholed land, lost in thought. President, did you use space magic in the middle of the battle between me and Yiwen, and waited for Yiwen and I to move from the back mountain of the guild? After thinking for a while, Gildas seemed to understand something, and asked Makarov. Don't pretend to be stupid. This is the back mountain of the guild. No, the mountain behind the guild is gone. The reason, you two think for yourself, I think you should understand. Makarov looked at Gildas and Egwene angrily. Allah. It's a little troublesome now. Gildas looked at the mess on the ground and fell into deep thought. But forget it, time will smooth everything out. Let me go back to the guild to rest now. I'm so thirsty. As he said that, Gildas was about to leave here on his own, and go back to the guild to drink beer. Bump. However, just as Gildas was about to leave, Makarov's fist landed on Gildas' head, making Gildas's already somewhat swollen head swollen even more. It hurts. President. Gildas opened a pair of dead fish eyes, looked at Makarov, and said. These are for you. If you can't restore the back mountain to its original state, don't go back to the guild. As Makarov said, he threw 2 buckets and 2 small shovels in front of Gildas and Yiwen, and spoke solemnly. After Makarov finished speaking, he left angrily. At the same time, Egwene and Gildas could still hear Makarov muttering, really, it's fine to make a mess of other people's house, the mountain in my own house is also demolished. I can't bear it anymore. It seems that the president is serious. Gildas grabbed his messy hair and looked at Makarov's back with a helpless expression. Anyway, that's it, let's work together. After thinking for a while, Gildas picked up the shovel and bucket on the ground and began to repair it. Really? Egwene frowned as she looked at the disappearing forest and mountains. Really? Gildas muttered while deftly shoveling the soil with a shovel. Ah, Yiwen sighed, manipulated the gravity, and began to clean up the gravel on the ground. She felt a little refreshed during the battle, but now she feels so sour. Is it gravity magic? It's so convenient. Gildas couldn't help admiring the way Egwene manipulated the gravity to clean up a large area of gravel while filling up the potholes. Then Gildas was a little allergic to the dust raised by Egwene, and couldn't help but sneeze. Boom. In an instant, the originally filled ground became torn apart again. On purpose, Yiwen raised her eyebrows when she saw Gildas, who was sneezing too hard, subconsciously activated his magic. If this continues, when will he be able to finish the work? A few hours later, Gildas dropped the shovel in his hand and lay down among the ruins. I'm done, I'm too tired. Gildas, who had been working for several hours, began to choose to play badly. If it goes on like this, it won't be repaired in a month. Egwene looked at the rotten Gildas and spoke. So, why don't you just quit? Gildas thought for a moment and replied seriously. Quote. Egwene knew that what Gildas said was true, not a single lie, and he really did not intend to continue to restore the back mountain of Fairy Tale. Egwene, let's go to work. Instead of wasting time here, it is better to use money directly and hire a professional team to repair it faster. As Gildas spoke, He jumped up from the devastated ground behind him and watched Egwene preach seriously. It makes sense. Then Kildith, do you have any promising missions? Egwene looked at Gildas and asked. What? If we go well, as long as we complete this job, the money we earn will be enough to repair the entire fairy tale back mountain. Kildith said with a smile on his face. Task level. Yiwen's eyes lit up, and then she asked. Undoubtedly it is an S-level mission. Kildith raised the corner of his mouth, looked at Yiwen and asked. I said, Yiwen, do you have a chance to try an S-level mission? Certainly. Yiwen nodded slightly, and at the same time, the system in his mind completed an update. The system update is complete. New task mode. The host can accept any task in the guild. The system divides the tasks into 100 years, 10 years, SS level, S level, A level, B level, C level, D level, E level. After completing the mission, you will receive a mission medal, which can be used to upgrade the host's skills. 100-year level mission medals can upgrade the host skills of any level by 1 level, 10-year level mission medals can upgrade any skills of the host below level 10, and SS level missions can improve any skills of the host below level 9 by 1 level, and so on. Note: mission medals can be synthesized, and 10 low-level mission medals can be synthesized into 1 high-level mission medal. Yiwen looked at the task mode in her mind and thought about it. That is to say, if he wanted to upgrade his skills from level 8 to level 9, he would need an SS level task medal, or complete 10 S level tasks. A little difficult, but not too difficult. In fact, the rewards for S level missions are also tens of millions. If converted into money, 10 S level missions are about 100 million yuan, which is exactly the same as the funds needed for Yiwen to upgrade from level 8 to level 9. In other words, Yiwen, in fact, there is no profit or loss. Actually, with your current strength, you can become an S-rank magister. But the elder is too old-fashioned. Gildas looked at Egwene and complained. It doesn't matter, this year's S-level magister assessment is definitely for me. Yiwen was full of confidence in herself. He really couldn't imagine that in this year's Fairy Tale Guild, there would be someone who could compete with him for an S-rank magister. That's right, earlier, there is actually not much difference. Gildas nodded. He is very confident in Yiwen's strength. This year, the list of S-level magisters allowed to participate in the assessment must have Yiwen's name. With the current situation of the guild, Yiwen has become an S-level magister. Mentors are already a given. Speaking of which, when are we going to leave? Since it was her first mission, Yiwen seemed a little eager to try. Now, Gildas smiled mysteriously, and then said 2 words lightly. The other side. Among the Fairy Tale Guild. Really, once you start a fight, you don't know the seriousness. Gildas is also in his 30s, and he still looks like a child. While drinking the beer in his glass, Makarov complained about Gildas and Egwene. Ha ha ha, President, you'll get a bargain and act like a good boy. In addition to Gildas, our guild now has the super combat power of Egwene. In terms of strength, it can already be called the real number 1 Fury Kingdom. Mikhail knew Makarov too well. He knew that Makarov was just talking about it, but he was already happy in his heart. Don't make excuses for them. Being strong is not an excuse to do whatever you want. But, hey, at the next meeting of the Guild Masters, I will see who will question the strength of our fairy tale. Makarov reprimanded Mikhail first, and then straightened his back. He couldn't wait now, and wanted to attend the annual meeting of guild presidents, and then he would take good care of his group of old and bad friends. In front of him, show a wave of excellent new members of his guild. By the way, Mikhail, don't drink in the guild all the time. If you really have nothing to do, go get those 2 idiots back from the back mountain. Makarov suddenly seemed to think of something, and yelled at Mikhail, who was drinking in the distance. Okay. As Mikhail said, he stood up, as if he had expected it. Mikhail is well aware of the personality of their president. As long as the members of Fairy Tale don't make principled mistakes, then Makarov won't really get angry. At most, he will criticize a few words, and then complain a few words. Makarov is a typical knife-mouthed bean-curd heart. It hasn't been half a day, but he gave a step to let Gildas and Yiwen return to the guild. Just as Mikhail was about to leave the guild and go to the back mountain to find Gildas and Yiwen, the door of the guild was suddenly pushed open, and an ordinary-looking fairy tale member ran in, and ran all the way to Macau. In front of President Love. What's wrong? Makarov wrapped his arms around his body, looked at the member in front of him and asked softly. Makarov didn't know why. When he saw the members in front of him, he always felt a little terrified, as if something bad was about to happen. President, this is the letter that Gildas asked me to forward to you. Just now, I went to the back mountain, and then met Gildas. He asked me to give you this letter, and I saw that he looked very anxious. I thought it might be a big deal, so hurry up and deliver the letter. The member spoke out of breath, and handed a letter to Makarov. Okay. Makarov frowned as he looked at the letter in front of him, and his inner premonition grew stronger. To put it simply, every time Gildas didn't show up, but chose to send someone to communicate with him, something would happen. Quote. Kildeth. After Makarov read all the letters in front of him, he let out an extremely angry roar. In fact, Makarov's premonition has always been very accurate. Won't this come true immediately? President, calm down. Macau looked at the furious president, sighed, and with a smile on his face, he walked up to Makarov, persuading him. Calm down. Do you know what mission this Kildeth is going to perform? He actually took Yuen to carry out the mission in the Storm Mountain Range. Makarov looked at Macau seriously. Wind Mountain Range. I remember that there seemed to be traces of wyverns found there, causing all the passing caravans to be attacked. That's why the Merchant Association issued a reward, and the reward is relatively high among tasks of the same level. However, considering the danger of the Gale Mountain Range itself, and the fact that wyverns are very difficult to deal with, no one took up this mission for several months after it was released. However, this task should not be a big problem for Gildas or Yuen, right? After all, that task was not an S-level task at first, but because no one was doing it, the Merchant Association increased the bounty and changed the level of difficulty. It's a pity to be promoted to S rank. If the bounty was so high when I was in a rank, maybe I would have gone. Macau muttered that he wanted to go too, but considering that the Windy Mountain Range was too far away, he never left. That's not the problem. The real danger is not the flying dragon. The real danger is Gildas and Yuen. If the two of them work together, it's not impossible to destroy the mountains. It's not good, my heart can't take it anymore. Makarov clutched his chest, he felt so hard. Even though he was already very old, he still had to act like a sinner. He was often summoned by the Magic Council, and in the end he had to conduct self-criticism like a group of people younger than him. Thinking of this, tears rolled down Makarov's eyes. President, cheer up. President, quick. Go and call the doctor. For a while, there were rumors in the guild that Makarov fainted because of being too sad. The reason it was a rumor was because everyone did not believe that President Makarov, one of the Holy Ten, would be stunned by members of his own guild. Call. The wind kept howling. This is a mountain range that is always shrouded in strong winds all year round. It is called the Scary Mountain Range, also known as the Windy Mountain Range. In the mountains, two figures, one large and one small, kept advancing against the howling wind in front of them. The miraculous thing is that the strong wind, which is enough to blow young children directly into the sky, appears very gentle in front of the two figures, one big and one small, and it seems that there is a kind of magical power shrouded around the one big and one small, helping them to resist the endless gust of wind in front of you. So how far is it? Kildeth. That's right. The big and the young are exactly Gildas and Yuen who left Fairy Tale to carry out the S-level mission. At this moment, the two have arrived at the place where the incident happened. Probably, maybe. Gildas looked at the howling wind around him, thought for a while and replied, it might be around here. Probably, maybe, none of these three words represent an accurate meaning. Egwene knew at a glance that Gildas was totally unreliable. Speaking of which, this strong wind is a bit too annoying. Since entering this valley, I can't tell the direction at all. If there is any way to stop this strong wind. Gildas stroked his chin thoughtfully. This is also something that can't be helped. Yuen was a little helpless. Because of the particularity of the Windy Valley, all people who entered here needed to be guided by local guides in order to successfully identify their orientation in the mountains, but because of the flying dragon, the guides were not working. The main reason why no one has completed this task for a long time. To put it bluntly, the reason for such a strong wind is entirely due to the terrain. It is caused by the special mountain here, that is to say. Kildas said here after a pause, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, that is said that as long as we make the mountains here no longer special, we can stop this strong wind. Quote. Egwene was a little silent, he probably understood what Gildas meant. Ewan, let's start working. If everything goes well, we can go back tonight. As Kildas said, a white light shone on his hand, and the mountain peak hundreds of meters high on the left of the two instantly turned into countless fragments. Call. With the disappearance of the high mountain, the wind in the Valley of the Wind has indeed become weaker. Egwene, what are you waiting for? As the Magister of Fairy Tale, no matter what task we do, we must do our best. As the Magister of Fairy Tale, no matter what kind of difficulties you encounter, you must overcome them. Then keep moving forward. No one can stop us. So try your best to stop the wind, find the flying dragon, and kill it. As Gildas said, another peak turned into countless stones and disappeared from the mountains. The wind blocking Gildas and Ewan's progress is getting weaker and weaker. I understand. Ewan nodded lightly, and then there seemed to be an invisible wave flying up into the sky from his body. Boom. In the next second, huge meteorites burning with flames fell from the sky one after another. Boom. The moment the meteorite fell into the valley, it raised countless peaks to the ground. For a while, the wind in the Valley of the Wind became a little weaker. That's it. Ewan remembers that as Magisters, we have to be responsible for the tasks of our employers, and do our best to complete the tasks for our employers as quickly as possible and in the best way. Because of the flying dragon problem, the caravans have been stagnant for nearly half a year. Since the mission has been taken over by our Fairy Tale, we will let them pass through today. This is the Magister of Fairy Tale. Gildas looked at Ewan, who was constantly calling for meteorites, and shouted passionately. As Kildath's enthusiasm soared, the guild medal on his body seemed to glow with a magical light. Especially after Kildath said that this is the Magister of Fairy Tale, not only Kildath's medal was shining, but even Ewan's medal was shining white. Oh, although Ewan didn't know what happened, but somehow, her blood became hot. Absolutely, can't stop. Boom, boom. One shot after another, countless meteorites fell from the sky, raising all the mountains around this wind valley to the ground one by one. As for some untidy places, Gildas used high-level crushing magic very violently to destroy them into countless pieces. An hour later, when Ewan and Gildas destroyed the entire mountain range in 7s and 80s, they finally saw a family of 5 biped wyverns who were about to move as if fleeing for their lives. Ewan, come on, do you see the flying dragon? Don't let them escape from the valley. Gildas looked at the flying dragon in the sky and stopped. He vaguely remembered that his mission was to destroy the flying dragon. Give it to me. 8-foot Chong Guyu. Ewan said that her body emitted a golden light, and countless lasers landed on Phylong's body in an instant. What? The flying dragon uttered screams and fell from the sky. Very good. Mission completed. Looking at the flying dragon that was shot through, Ewan and Kildas smiled excitedly, then they stretched out their fists and touched each other lightly. In April, spring of X774, Fairy Tale's Magister Egwene and Gildas completed the S-level mission issued by the Merchant Association. Scary, the flying dragon of the Windy Mountains, and the flying dragon disappeared, as well as the entire Skri Mountains. The Magic Senate was furious. Egwene got a huge reward from going out on a mission with Gildas. First of all, Ewan received an S-level mission medal, which allowed her to upgrade any skill below level 8. Of course, this medal is secondary to Ewan's view. Ewan's real gain is the broadening of her mind. In other words, if it was Egwene before performing missions with Kildas, she would definitely seek help from familiar local people as a guide when encountering unfamiliar terrain. When encountering unfamiliar terrain, he will directly make the terrain familiar. If you can't change yourself, change all other factors that are not good for you. This is the huge and valuable experience that Egwene has gained. Been taught a lesson. Egwene watched as Gildas spoke softly. You're still young, you'll understand when you're my age. Gildas rubbed Egwene's head lightly. He felt emotional in his heart. He thought that he was also a good card back then. After doing a few missions with Makarov, who was still young at the time, he suddenly became transparent. Up. To put it simply, this is passed down from generation to generation, fairy tale thinking, or fairy tale thinking for short. Even Yi Wen herself didn't realize that he was being assimilated by this kind of thinking, gradually turning into a fairy. Another day passed. When Yi Wen and Gildas returned to the guild, they found that the guild leader was not there. It wasn't until the two asked the members of the guild that Makarov had ridden the inspection and went to the Magic Council not long after he heard that Egwene and Gildas had gone out on a mission. The old horse is so skilled that it makes people feel distressed. Magic Senate. In short, you should put this away in advance. According to my experience, I will definitely use it. Makarov looked at his old friend in the Magic Council before him, and handed in a letter of apology he had written in advance. Okay, Pony, you go back first. If the matter is not serious, I will find a way to help you calm down. If it involves too much, you can come to the council to apologize. With your status as the Holy Ten, an apology is enough to deal with them. Yujima opened one eye and closed the other. This is his usual habit, and it is also his attitude towards fairy tale. Yakima. After hearing what his friend said, Makarov hugged Yajima with teary eyes. Pony. Yujima opened his arms quite emotionally. Ahem. Excuse me, Mr. Yujima, and Mr. Makarov, the Speaker of the Senate has something to discuss with the two of you. Just when the two were about to hug each other and strengthen their relationship, a soft cough interrupted the two who were about to hug each other. Okay. Makarov and Yujima withdrew their movements at the same time, and put some distance between them. Although the two are like brothers and sisters, they still have to avoid suspicion when it is time to avoid suspicion. I don't know if you are looking for me, and what is the matter with Makarov? With his hands behind his back, Yakima asked the soldier of the Magic Council in front of him while bending his waist like a hunchback. Forehead. Hearing this, the soldier glanced at Makarov in front of Yujima, and seemed to be hesitant to answer Yujima's question. But it's okay to say. Yujima knew that this matter probably had something to do with Makarov, so the soldier was hesitant to tell the two of them, but given his relationship with Makarov, it didn't matter if Makarov knew about it in advance. It's like this. The Magisters of Fairy Tale, Gildas and Egwene, destroyed the Scree mountain range while carrying out the S-level mission issued by the Merchant Association. The soldier hesitated for a moment, but still told the story. Oh, Yujima nodded, indicating that he understood, and continued to ask, how many were destroyed? Quote. The soldier glanced at the pale Makarov, took a deep breath, and replied, all of them. All. When Yujima heard this, his eyes widened. He remembered that although the entire Scree mountain range was not long, it was tens of kilometers long, right? Yes. Fairy Tale's Magisters Gildas and Egwene opened a huge hole in the mountain range and wiped out the entire Gale mountain range, along with the Gale Valley, including the flying dragons in the valley. The mountains have turned into plains. The soldier said and took out a map and handed it to Yujima. This is a new map that we made in a hurry, and it is being distributed to the whole continent now, and I told them to replace it in time-old map. Let me see. Yujima took the map from the soldier's hand, and then his eyes widened. Even his eye, which had been closed all year round, opened, and he saw that the place marked on the map as the Gale mountain range had really changed to plain. Little Ma, this matter. Yujima swallowed, turned around, and looked at Makarov. To be honest, this incident was too much, and he couldn't suppress it. The Scourge. The Scourge. Egwene and Gildas together are a disaster. Plop. It was also the moment when Yujima turned around, and saw Makarov clutching his heart and falling to the ground, as if a soul slowly floated out of Makarov's body. No. Doctor. Call the doctor. Yujima looked at the lost soul of Makarov, his expression changed drastically, and he immediately ordered the soldiers around him to call for a doctor. Obey. The soldiers didn't care about anything else, and immediately ran towards the council behind them. Pony. Makarov. Don't scare me. Yakima hugged Makarov's collapsed body and shouted nervously. Because of the loud voice of Yujima, a man in a suit with a pot belly who was about to enter the Magic Guild ran towards Yujima immediately after hearing Yujima's voice, excited at the same time. Makarov. Is that Makarov from Fairy Tale? Little Ma, Makarov is not in good health, no matter what you ask him for, please wait until he recovers. Yakima glared at the pot-bellied man in front of him, and he regarded the man in front of him as Makarov's enemy. Makarov is sick. This is really a big deal. In fact, I came to the Magic Council this time to represent our Merchant Association and express my gratitude to President Makarov, one of the Holy Tens of Fairy Tale. Thanks to him for sending 2 Magisters, Egwin and Kildith, who not only helped us drive away the annoying flying dragons, but also helped us dig a direct road to the 2 countries. This makes our business more convenient. Speaking of this, the businessman paused for a moment, took out a check from his pocket, and then continued, by the way, to express our gratitude, our Businessman's Association collected another 50 million J, although not many, we still intend to express our feelings to Fairy Tale. After all. Really, although it is bad behavior to collect extra money from the employer, but for your insistence, I will accept the money. Before the businessman finished speaking, Makarov, who was lying on the ground, had already come to the businessman and took the check from the businessman's hand at the same time. So fast. Yakima and the chubby businessman stared wide-eyed at Makarov, who stood up from the ground, revived, and took the check at a speed that was indistinguishable to the naked eye. Is this the frightened sitting up in the legendary dying disease? Chubby businessman feels himself blown away. Ha ha ha. That's right, Egwene and Gildarth are the pride of our fairy tale. As for the candidate for this mission, it was the old man who chose me. Makarov puffed out his chest, put his hands on his hips, and laughed. No, just now you called Egwene and Kildith the scourge of your guild. The soldiers of the Magic Council on the side complained wildly. You misheard just now. Makarov glared at the sightless soldier, then grabbed the merchant's hand and said, please, do you have any tasks for the Magister to complete in the future? You can come to Fairy Tale to issue tasks. Our Fairy Tale Magister, work efficiently, fast, okay. Of course, of course. Please rest assured, Mr. Makarov. The merchant was full of respect for Makarov. As a member of the Merchant Association, he clearly knew that besides being the president of the Fairy Tale Wizards Association, this ordinary-looking little old man in front of him also had other roles. Assuming the position of the Holy 10 Magisters, he was selected by the Magic Council and is one of the 10 strongest Magisters in the entire Ishgar continent. Little Ma, anyway, you still have to go in with me to go through the process. Yujima bowed his waist, with his hands behind his back, holding the letter of apology that Makarov handed him. Now that the Merchant Association is guaranteeing Makarov and Fairy Tale, the association's punishment for Fairy Tale can also be punished. It should be wiped away. Although there may not be any rewards, it can also slightly change the views of some judges on Fairy Tale. Although these Magisters have exaggerated things, their style is still very good. Certainly, as Makarov said, he puffed up his chest. In the past, every time he entered the Magic Council, he always lowered his head, for fear of being seen. Throwing his old face without a quilt would not have much face, but this time he did not. Similarly, this time he has more face, so he must let everyone know that he, Makarov, has come to the association. Not only has he come to the association, but he has also been thanked by the Merchant Association. Then we go in together. The representative of the Merchant Association, this white and tender fat man, asked Makarov and Yujima. It is good. Makarov and Yujima nodded at the same time. The 3 talked and laughed, and walked into the Magic Council side by side. Meanwhile, Fairy Tale. The president was called away by the Magic Council. Yuen was sitting by the bar, holding a glass of milk in her hand, and sipping it. Originally, he wanted to drink beer, but the bar manager changed it to milk because he was too young. Kildith, do we need to do something to deal with the Magic Senate? Egwene thought for a while, put down the milk in the glass, and asked as she looked at Kildith, who was gulping down beside her. What? When Kildith heard Egwene calling him, he turned his head and looked at Egwene suspiciously, as if he didn't hear what Egwene was saying at all. Ah, seeing Kildith like this, Egwene knew that Kildith wasn't listening to him at all. I mean, Egwene reorganized her words, and was about to repeat what she had just said to Kildith. Ivan, I heard you're back. Our duel last time wasn't over yet. I was careless, but this time, I will never lose. Just when Yuen was about to ask Kildith for his opinion, the door of the guild was kicked open, and Lacuses, who was wrapped in many bandages, walked in aggressively and came straight to Yuen. Okay, don't interrupt me, Lacuses. There is still a duel, wait until I am free. Egwene turned around and looked at Lacuses and complained, Egwene felt very helpless for Lucuzes to interrupt him. Yuan, are you scared? But it's no wonder. After all, in order to defeat you, I just went to the Hakebe Mountains and defeated 1,000 Balkans. Lucuzes said that golden thunders lit up on his body. The injuries on his body were all injuries suffered in the duel with Balkan, a monster that looks like an orangutan. He cleaned up several tribal groups of the Balkans. So Gildas, regarding the president's going to the council, do we need to prepare some countermeasures in advance, similar to rescue methods? After all, the incident this time is really too much. In fact, Egwene had the impression that even Naz and the others in the later period did not commit any evil acts such as destroying a mountain range, so she asked Gildas for his opinion. You mean the president? After listening carefully to what Evan said, Gildas realized what Evan was talking about just now. To be honest, he wasn't too worried about the president. Hey, Yuan, did you listen to me? Lucuzes looked at Yuan, who was ignoring him. The corners of his eyes twitched slightly, and then his expression became fierce. Very well, ignore me. Then let you taste it, my fist that knocked down 1,000 Balkans. After Lucuzes finished speaking, the magic power in his body continued to roar, and in the next second, he came to Yuan in an instant, and swung out his desk violently. Thunder Dragon's collapsing fist. Lucuzes hit Egwene on the back of the head with all his strength. You are annoying. However, the knowledgeable Yuan avoided Lucuzes' fist with a slight sideways movement, then turned around and placed one hand on Lucuzes' abdomen. What? Lucuzes looked at Yuan, who dodged his attack. His pupils trembled. Gravity punch. Immediately afterwards, without waiting for Lucuzes to think about it, an incomparably huge force suddenly burst out from his abdomen. Boom. In the next second, Lucuzes flew into the sky like a cannonball, broke through the ceiling of the Fairy Tale Guild, and disappeared without a trace. Ha ha ha. Another instant kill. Sure enough, the gap between Lucuzes and Yuan is too great. As Lucuzes was blown away by Yuan, countless people in the guild instantly burst into laughter. So annoying. After Yuan instantly killed Lucuzes, she turned around again. We don't need to worry about the president's affairs. The group of guys in the council will not punish the president too much. They are more aware of the importance of the 10 great magisters than we are. Gildas was extremely calm. Although he didn't like the false name of the Holy 10 very much, sometimes, the false name is still very useful. Even the Magic Senate will not punish the magisters who are ranked among the Holy 10 for some trivial matters. If you want to punish a magister of the Holy 10 level, the number alone is not enough. The Holy 10 can only be punished by the magister of the Holy 10 level. However, the counselors of the Magic Senate knew how powerful the 10 Holy Magisters were, otherwise they would not have given the order that the Holy 10 level Magisters were not allowed to fight privately. Once a Magister of this level starts a war, it will end in a catastrophe. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.